Another heavy kick slams directly into my rib. The sickening crack echoes loudly, and I hit the floor hard, violently gasping for air. I spit up a mouthful of blood, my massive 500-pound frame shivering uncontrollably as I curl into a pathetic ball. Marcus stands over me, his face twisted in pure disgust. He reels back and kicks me again, this time aiming right for my stomach. I gag, the sheer force of it, sending a shockwave of pain through layers of fat and straight into my organs. "Get up, you useless pig," Marcus spits, pointing a finger right at my face. "You broke my expensive dining chair just by sitting your fat ass on it. I told you 100 times you are nothing but a burden in this house. Now sign the damn bank transfer documents? Your mother left that life insurance money for me, not for a pathetic waste of space like you." I stare up at my stepfather, my vision swimming. Ever since my mom died, Marcus has shown his true colors. He doesn't care about me at all. He just wants the $500,000 sitting in my trust fund, money my mom specifically left for my college and medical expenses. I have always been heavy, but the grief and the stress eating pushed me over 500 pounds. I can barely walk up the stairs without losing my breath, let alone fight back against a grown man. I try to speak to tell him I will never sign away my mom's money, but all that comes out is a wet cough. "You think you can just lay there and ignore me?" Marcus sneers, grabbing me by the collar of my oversized shirt. The fabric rips instantly under my massive weight. "Fine, if you want to be a stubborn pig, we'll treat you like one." Just as he drags me toward the hallway, a sharp mechanical sound rings directly inside my head. Ding. System integration complete. High gravity system bound to host. I freeze. A glowing blue interface suddenly materializes right in front of my eyes, floating in the air. I blink, thinking the blood loss is making me hallucinate, but the screen stays perfectly locked in my vision. Marcus doesn't seem to notice it at all. He just keeps dragging me by my torn shirt, his boots scraping loudly against the floorboards. He hauls me over to the basement door, unlocks it, and kicks me right down the wooden steps. I tumble down heavily, my massive body slamming into the concrete floor at the bottom with a loud thud. Pain is blinding. I hear the heavy door slam shut at the top of the stairs, followed by the sound of the deadbolt locking into place. "You can rot down there," Marcus shouts through the thick wood. "I'm not giving you a single drop of water or a single crumb of food until you sign those papers. You can starve until you figure out who's in charge." The basement is pitch black, smelling of damp concrete and old dust. I groan, slowly forcing myself to sit up against the cold wall. My entire body aches. But right in front of me, glowing brightly in the dark, is that blue screen. I focus my eyes on it. Ding. Scanning host physical condition. Target mass recorded at 500 pounds. Fat content at 68%. Assessment complete. Host possesses extreme excess biological fuel. Activating physical conversion protocols. I stare at the text, my mind racing. Biological fuel? Does this system mean my fat? In my entire life, this massive weight has been my curse. It's the reason the kids at school throw food at me in the cafeteria. It's the reason Chloe and her group of friends take pictures of me struggling to fit into a desk and post them online to mock me. And now this system is telling me it's fuel? Ding. To initiate body reconstruction, the system recommends the 9-day foundational gravity regime. Warning. This process is highly demanding. The system will forcibly metabolize the host's fat stores to sustain biological functions and rapidly rebuild muscle fibers. Do you wish to begin? I don't even hesitate. I have nothing left to lose. If I stay like this, Marcus is going to beat me to death or starve me out anyway. Yes, I say out loud, my voice raspy. Begin. Ding. Activating 9-day foundational gravity regime. Sealing training environment. Suddenly, a faint blue energy field ripples across the walls of the basement, completely sealing the door and the tiny air vents. Before I can even process what that means, the system chimes again, adjusting local gravity. 3 times normal Earth gravity applied. The shift is instantaneous and absolutely brutal. It feels like an invisible semi-truck just dropped directly onto my shoulders. I instantly collapse, my face smashing into the concrete. The breath is violently forced out of my lungs. I can't move. My 500-pound body now effectively weighs 1,500 pounds. Every single joint in my body screams in pure agony. My bones feel like they are going to snap. I grit my teeth so hard my gums bleed. Ding. Gravity stabilization complete. Task 1 begins now. Execute 100 push-ups. Failure to comply will result in a further gravity increase. I let out a desperate, pained laugh. Push-ups? I couldn't even do 1 regular push-up at my normal weight. Now I have to do 100 under 3 times gravity? But the pressure pressing down on me is merciless. I know the system isn't joking. I place my thick, shaking hands flat against the concrete. I push with everything I have. My muscles burn like they are being stabbed with hot needles. Slowly, painfully, I lift my chest an inch off the ground. My arms shake violently. Ding. 1 push-up completed. Fat reserves depleted by 0. 1%. Energy converted to sustain muscle integrity. I can actually feel it. A strange burning heat radiates from my stomach and my chest. It isn't just the pain of the exercise. The system is literally eating my fat, breaking it down into pure energy, and pumping it directly into my tearing muscle fibers to heal them instantly. I drop back down, gasping, then push up again. Over the next 9 days, the basement becomes my own personal hell. I lose track of time completely. There is no day or night, just the relentless, glowing blue screen and the crushing weight of the gravity. When the system demands 1,000 squats, I do them until my knees literally buckle and I spit blood. When it demands core exercises, I crunch until my vision goes completely black. I don't need to eat. I don't need to drink. The system perfectly metabolizes my massive fat reserves, using every single ounce of my extra weight to keep me alive and fuel my rapid muscle growth. By day 4, the pain starts to fade, replaced by a terrifying explosive sense of power. I can feel my body changing. The massive rolls of fat that used to suffocate me are melting away, replaced by dense, hard muscle. By day 7, I'm doing one-handed push-ups under the 3 times gravity without even breaking a sweat. Every time I complete a set, the system chimes, notifying me of my decreasing body fat percentage and my increasing muscle density. Finally, it's the 9th day. I am down on the concrete, executing the final set of resistance training. 98, 99, 100. I push myself up effortlessly. Ding! 9-day foundational gravity regime completed. Local gravity normalized. The crushing pressure vanishes instantly. I stand up and I almost launch myself into the ceiling. I feel so incredibly light. I look down at my own body and my eyes widen in shock. I don't even recognize myself. The massive 500-pound frame is completely gone. I now weigh a lean, solid 200 pounds. My chest is broad, my abs are deeply chiseled like carved stone, and my arms are thick with dense, coiled muscle. I look like a professional combat athlete. Ding. Task completion reward granted. 20 free attribute points available for allocation. I pull up my stat screen. My base strength and agility were both sitting at a pathetic 3 before. Without hesitating, I dump 10 points directly into strength and 10 points into agility. The moment I confirm the allocation, a massive surge of heat rushes through my veins. My bones crack and reset, hardening like steel. I clench my fist, feeling a terrifying amount of raw physical force entirely at my command. I look up at the basement door. It's time to leave. I walk up the wooden stairs. My steps are completely silent now, my agility perfectly balancing my movements. I stand in front of the locked wooden door. I don't bother looking for the key. I just pull back my right fist and punch straight forward. The impact sounds like a bomb going off. The thick wooden door instantly splinters into 1,000 pieces. The heavy steel hinges completely snap off the door frame, and the entire door goes flying across the hallway, smashing into the opposite wall. I step through the dust and walk calmly toward the living room. I can hear voices. Marcus is in the living room and he isn't alone. I hear a girl laughing. It's Chloe. She's the girl from my homeroom who leads the group that constantly mocks me. She's the one who deliberately spilled her soda on my lap last week just to watch me struggle to clean it up while everyone laughed. What is she doing in my house? I turn the corner and step right into the living room. Marcus is sitting on the couch holding a stack of papers, clearly my bank transfer documents. Chloe is standing near the kitchen counter, holding her expensive phone. Oh yeah, mister. Davis, Chloe is saying, flipping her hair. My dad said if Arthur misses one more day, he's officially expelled. He just wanted me to drop off formal warning. Honestly, it's for the best. Arthur just takes up 2 seats anyway. Marcus laughs loudly. Tell your dad I appreciate it, Chloe. That fat idiot is locked in his room right now. I'll make sure he signs the papers before I kick him out on the street. I cross my arms and lean against the doorway. Is that right? I say, my voice deep and completely steady. Both of them freeze and snap their heads toward me. Chloe's eyes go wide. She looks at my chiseled chest, my broad shoulders, and the hard lines of my jaw. Her face instantly flushes red. She completely fails to recognize me. Oh wow, she stammers, quickly adjusting her posture to look more attractive. I didn't know, mister. Davis had company. Are you a college athlete? Do you work out around here? I completely ignore her and keep my eyes locked on Marcus. Marcus is staring at me, his face draining of all color. He doesn't see a random athlete. He recognizes my eyes. He recognizes the shape of my nose. He drops the bank papers on the floor, his hands actually shaking. Arthur? He whispers, his voice cracking in absolute disbelief. No, that's impossible. You're 500 pounds. What the hell is this? I let out a cold laugh. What's wrong, Marcus? You don't like the new look? Chloe snaps her head between Marcus and me. Her mouth hangs open. Arthur? She says, her voice trembling. No way. This is a joke. Arthur is a disgusting pig. He can't look like this. I don't even look at her. You should have kept your mouth shut, Marcus, I say, taking a slow step forward. Marcus panics. His authority is entirely built on me being weak and helpless. Seeing me stand in front of him, taller and visibly stronger than he could ever be, shatters his fragile ego. He wildly looks around and grabs the metal baseball bat leaning against the armchair. Shut up, Marcus screams, his face red with sudden rage. I don't care what kind of freak steroids you took in my basement. I'm the man of this house. I'll break your legs and force you to sign those papers with a broken arm. He lunges at me, swinging the aluminum bat directly at my head with all his strength. With my new 20 points in agility, the swing looks completely pathetic. It's like watching a child swing a pool noodle in slow motion. I don't even dodge. I just raise my right hand and catch the bat mid-swing. The impact hits my bare palm with a loud clang, but my hand doesn't even budge. Marcus stops dead, his eyes bulging out of his skull. He tries to pull the bat back, but my grip is like an industrial vice. I squeeze my hand. The thick aluminum crunches and folds under my fingers like a cheap soda can. The metal bends completely in half. Marcus lets out a terrified gasp, finally realizing he isn't dealing with a normal human anymore. Before he can even let go of the handle, I grab him by the front of his shirt with my other hand. I lift his entire body completely off the ground using just one arm. He kicks his legs in the air, sputtering and choking. You wanted to know who's in charge? I say coldly. I throw him. I don't even use my full strength, but Marcus flies across the living room like a rag doll. He smashes violently into the drywall, his body breaking straight through the plaster. He hits the wooden studs behind the wall and collapses to the floor in a heap of dust and debris. He spits up a mouthful of blood and immediately passes out. The living room goes dead silent. The crowd of one Chloe is completely frozen in terror. The smug, arrogant bully from school is shaking so hard she can barely stand. She looks at the crumpled metal bat on the floor, then looks at Marcus's unconscious body stuck in the wall. She takes a step back, her chest heaving in absolute panic. She tries to hide her phone behind her back. Oh my God, she whispers, tears actually welling up in her eyes. Arthur, please, I didn't mean anything I said earlier. It was just a joke. We're friends, right? I step toward her. She screams, drops her expensive phone on the hardwood floor, and completely scrambles backward over the couch, trying to put distance between us. I don't even spare her a second glance. I walk right past her shivering form and step over to where Marcus dropped his things during the fight. I crouch down and pick up Marcus's leather wallet and the keys to his car. I flip the wallet open. A thick stack of cash sits inside. Financial control secured. I slip the wallet into my pocket and spin the car keys around my finger. I turn my back on the ruined living room and the terrified girl still crying behind the couch. I walk straight out the front door and hit the unlock button on the key fob. The car chirps in the driveway. It's time to go to school and show the rest of my tormentors exactly who they've been messing with. I slide into the driver's seat of Marcus's sedan and start the engine. The drive to school is a total blur of memories from my past life, or rather my past self. For years, I had to waddle onto the miserable yellow school bus, sweating straight through my clothes while the whole vehicle laughed at the way the suspension groaned under my 500-pound frame. The older kids used to throw crumpled up paper balls at the back of my neck, and I couldn't even turn around fast enough to see who did it. Not today. I pull into the high school student lot and throw the sedan into park right in the middle of the front row, taking up a prime spot usually reserved for the staff. Ding. New objective generated. Dismantle social hierarchy. Target. Establish absolute dominance over the apex of the school's social structure. Reward 50 experience points. I let out a cold laugh in the empty car. The system really knows exactly what I want to do. Before I even open the door, I see him. Brad, the star quarterback, the golden boy of the school, and the absolute bane of my existence for the last 3 years. He's leaning against the hood of a massive lifted truck with his varsity jacket draped over his shoulder, surrounded by his usual group of sycophants. He recognizes Marcus's car immediately. He probably thinks my stepdad dragged me here to publicly humiliate me or force me to apologize to Chloe for missing homeroom. Brad nudges his buddy and points at the sedan with a smug grin, already walking over to get a front row seat to my misery. I push the door open and step out onto the pavement. The moment I stand up to my full height, the sneer on Brad's face freezes entirely. The massive crowd of students lingering in the parking lot stops talking all at once. I'm wearing a plain black t-shirt that stretches tightly across my newly chiseled chest and broad shoulders. My jawline is sharp, my posture is totally straight, and I carry myself with the dense, terrifying weight of my new strength. Brad stops dead in his tracks. He blinks, clearly trying to process if I'm some new transfer student or an angry older sibling, but then his eyes lock onto my face. He recognizes the shape of my eyes and the distinct scar on my chin from when he pushed me into a locker sophomore year. "Arthur?" Brad blurts out, his voice cracking loudly enough for the whole lot to hear. The crowd watching couldn't believe it. "Wait, did he just say Arthur? The fat pig?" They whispered. "No way, that guy looks like a professional fighter. What happened to him? Did he get surgery over the weekend?" I hear every single word. I couldn't care less. I just stare at Brad with dead cold eyes. My absolute lack of fear hits Brad's fragile ego like a freight train. He's the apex predator of this school, and he realizes his authority is slipping just by standing near me. He puffs out his chest and marches right up into my personal space, raising his hands to shove me hard in the chest. "What the hell are you looking at, you freak? I don't care what kind of lipo you got, you're still a loser." He throws a heavy two-handed shove aimed right at my sternum. In my past life, that shove would have sent my massive, off-balance body tumbling into the dirt while everyone laughed. But right now, with 20 free attribute points dumped directly into strength and agility, Brad looks like he's moving entirely underwater. I don't even step back. I just casually raise my right hand and catch his thick forearm mid-shove. The impact sounds like a wet slap. Brad's eyes go wide. He tries to yank his arm back, but my grip is like an iron vise clamping down on his bone. I don't say a word. I just squeeze. Brad's face drains of all color instantly. He lets out a high-pitched gasp as his bones literally grind together under my fingers. I apply downward pressure, using just a tiny fraction of my enhanced physical strength. It's too much for him. Brad's knees instantly buckle. He collapses onto the hard pavement with a loud thud, completely forced to his knees in front of me, entirely subjugated just to stop his arm from snapping in half. "Let go of him." A shrill voice cuts through the silence. Chloe pushes her way to the front of the crowd, her face completely pale. She had to have run the whole way from my house. She looks at me, then down at Brad kneeling on the pavement like a beaten dog, and she actually trembles. "Brad, just back off. It's really him, just leave him alone." Her confirming my identity sends a massive shockwave through the onlookers. Holy crap, it really is Arthur. He just forced Brad to his knees with one hand. Is Brad crying? I release my grip and Brad instantly cradles his arm against his chest, gasping violently for air. I don't even look at him. I just step right over his kneeling body and walk straight toward the main building. Ding. Minor dominance asserted. 20 experience points awarded. Ding. Host has reached tier 1. Active skill unlocked, gravitational aura. I keep walking through the double doors, bringing up the system interface in my mind. Gravitational aura allows me to instantly increase the localized weight of objects or individuals by 20% within a 5-meter radius. I let out a low whistle. 20% weight increase doesn't sound like much until you realize what it actually does to a human body in motion. If a guy weighing 200 pounds throws a punch, suddenly adding 40 pounds of dead weight to his center of gravity mid-swing will completely destroy his balance and shatter his joints. It's the ultimate crowd-controlled cheat, and I am definitely going to need it today. I skip my morning classes entirely and head straight for the cafeteria. It's early lunch period, and the massive room is packed with students eating and talking. I walk straight down the middle aisle, ignoring the heavy stares and the furious whispering, and walk right up to the central table. This table has been strictly reserved for the athletic team since the dawn of time. Anyone else who even tries to sit here gets violently thrown out into the hallway. I pull out the middle chair and sit down, casually stretching my legs out. The entire cafeteria goes dead silent. The tension is incredibly thick. Less than 5 minutes later, the double doors at the back of the cafeteria bang open. Brad storms in, his face purple with pure rage. But he isn't alone this time. He's brought 3 of the heaviest, meanest football linemen on the defensive squad. Each of these guys easily pushes 280 pounds of pure bulk. They march straight toward the central table, aggressively boxing me in from 3 sides to completely cut off my escape routes. Brad stands safely behind them, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You think you're tough because you got a lucky grip on me outside? You're dead, Arthur. Break his legs." The 3 massive linemen crack their knuckles and lunge forward simultaneously, throwing heavy, uncoordinated grapples meant to drag me out of my chair and beat me into the tile floor. They have no idea what they're walking into. I don't even stand up. I just activate gravitational aura. Faint, invisible ripple expands exactly 5 meters outward from my body. The effect is instantaneous and absolutely devastating. The 3 charging linemen suddenly have 50 to 60 pounds of invisible, dead weight slammed directly onto their shoulders right as they lean forward to grab me. Their momentum completely betrays them. The guy on my left literally faceplants, his heavy chin smashing into the cafeteria floor with a sickening crack. The guy on my right tries to catch his footing, but his knees completely buckle under the sudden, unnatural strain, and he collapses into a pathetic heap holding his leg. The center guy just trips over his own heavy feet and crashes face first into the edge of the lunch table, knocking himself out cold instantly. In less than 2 seconds, the 3 biggest guys in the entire school are groaning on the floor, completely unable to stand. The crowd of students absolutely loses their minds. What just happened? He didn't even touch them. Did they trip? Brad's smug expression shatters into sheer terror. He turns to run, but I stand up, grab him by the collar of his expensive varsity jacket, and slam him violently against the nearest concrete structural pillar. The breath leaves his lungs in a loud whoosh. 2 years, I say, my voice dangerously low and steady. You cornered me in the bathrooms and took my lunch money for 2 solid years. I want it back. Now, Brad is hyperventilating, his eyes darting to his unconscious friends on the floor. I don't have cash. He squeaks, completely abandoning his tough guy persona. I accept digital transfers, I reply coldly, tightening my grip until his feet lift entirely off the floor. Brad frantically fumbles in his pocket, pulls out his expensive phone with a shaking hand, and transfers $1,000 directly to my account. My phone buzzes in my pocket, confirming the deposit. Financial submission secured. I drop Brad to the floor just as the cafeteria doors swing open again. Principal Vance marches in, his face red and a walkie-talkie gripped tightly in his fist. He's a balding, sweating man who only cares about the school's funding. He sees the 3 football players groaning on the floor and Brad cowering against the pillar. "Arthur Davis," Vance screams, pointing his radio at me like a weapon. "I don't know what kind of drugs you're on, but you are officially expelled for unprovoked assault. Pack your things and leave this campus immediately before I call the police." He's doing exactly what I knew he would do. Brad's family practically funds the entire athletic department, and Vance is desperate to appease them to keep his budget padded. I let out a cold laugh. Expelled? That's cute. I reach into my pocket and pull out Marcus's phone. When I took his wallet and keys earlier, I grabbed his phone too. Marcus is an arrogant, sloppy drunk, and I've spent years memorizing his passcode just waiting for an opportunity. I unlock it, open his voice memos, and hit play on a specific file, holding the speaker up to the cafeteria microphone on the podium nearby. The audio echoes loudly across the dead silent room. "Listen, Vance," Marcus's slurred voice rings out clearly. "Here's $2,000 in cash. Fat Pig took a bad tumble down the stairs again. He's gonna have a lot of bruises tomorrow. Just look the other way like you usually do, all right?" Then Vance's unmistakable weaselly voice replies, "Of course, Mr. Davis. Boys will be boys. The school appreciates your generous donation to the discretionary fund." Principal Vance's face goes completely white. He looks like he just saw a ghost. Taking bribes to cover up domestic abuse is a guaranteed prison sentence, and now half the student body just heard it live over the speakers. "You were saying something about calling the police?" I ask, raising an eyebrow. Vance swallows hard, his hands shaking violently. His authority is completely nullified in an instant. He doesn't say another word. He just turns around and practically sprints out of the cafeteria to avoid facing the hundreds of staring students. The crowd is completely paralyzed by the sheer volume of drama that just unfolded in less than 10 minutes. Ding. Objective complete. Social hierarchy dismantled. 50 experience points awarded. Host core strength attribute increased by 5 points. I feel another massive surge of heat rush through my muscles, my bones hardening even further as the raw power settles into my frame. I ignore the staring crowd, turn around, and calmly sit back down at the central table. I pull an apple out of my bag and take a loud, crunchy bite, consuming my lunch in total isolation while ruling the apex of the cafeteria. But across the room, Brad is still huddled by the pillar. His face is twisted in pure venomous hatred. His pride has been completely shattered, and he isn't going to let this go. With shaking fingers, he opens a messaging app and pulls up a contact labeled bro. He types furiously. "He humiliated me in front of everyone. Bring your guys to the student lot after school. Bring the brass knuckles." Brad hits send, knowing his older brother is a ranked underground cage fighter who has permanently crippled men for far less. Final bell rings, but I don't bother going to my afternoon classes anyway. I just walk straight out the front double doors into the bright afternoon sun. In my past life, this exact time of day was a nightmare. I used to hide in a dirty bathroom stall for an hour after the bell, waiting until the parking lot cleared out just so I wouldn't get tripped or shoved into the dirt on my way to the bus. I'd sit there sweating, hating myself, wishing I had the strength to just walk outside like a normal person. Now I stride right through the main quad, feeling the dense, coiled power in my newly refined muscles. The student body parts out of my way like the Red Sea. Nobody says a word to my face, but the furious whispering follows me every single step. Is that really him? He looks completely different. Someone mutters behind a locker. I heard he broke Brad's arm in the parking lot this morning, and Vance didn't even suspend him. I hear all of it, and I just let a cold smirk tug at the corner of my mouth. I walk down the concrete steps and head straight for Marcus's sedan parked in the staff lot. But the moment I get close, I realize I have a welcoming committee. Brad is standing right by the driver's side door. He's still cradling his injured arm against his chest, but the sheer terror from this morning is gone, replaced by a smug, entitled grin. He didn't come alone. Standing right in front of him is his older brother Dex. I recognize Dex immediately. He's a local underground cage fighter covered in cheap neck tattoos and wearing a tight tank top to show off his heavily steroid-pumped arms. Flanking Dex are two massive thugs, both gripping heavy steel pipes. A huge crowd of students has already gathered in a wide circle around my car, holding up their phones to record, totally eager to watch the newly transformed freak get brutally put back in his place. Dex spits a wad of gum onto the asphalt and points his pipe right at my face. So you're the fat piece of trash who got lucky and put his hands on my little brother. Dex sneers, stepping into my personal space. Brad told me you got some kind of secret surgery over the weekend. I don't care if you took 100 steroids, you're still the same pathetic loser underneath. He turns back to his thugs and laughs. Watch this, I'm gonna cave his knees in. The crowd watching couldn't believe my total lack of reaction. He's dead, a senior whispers loudly. Dex put a guy in the ICU last month for looking at him wrong. Arthur should just run. I don't run. I don't even step back. I just look at Dex's sloppy, wide stance and the incredibly amateur way he's gripping that steel pipe. Get away from my car, I say flatly. Dex's face flushes with pure anger. He doesn't say another word. He just lunges forward, swinging the heavy steel pipe directly at the side of my head with lethal intent. His two thugs rush in right behind him, raising their weapons to box me in. I don't even bother raising my hands to block. I just mentally trigger gravitational aura and lock the spatial targeting directly onto the dense metal of their weapons. The invisible energy pulse ripples outward. I instantly increase the weight of the 3 steel pipes by exactly 20% right at the apex of their swing. The sudden, unnatural shift in localized mass completely destroys their center of gravity. Dex's eyes widen in sheer panic as the pipe suddenly feels like it's made of solid lead. The heavy weapon rips right out of his grip, dragging his arm down and pulling him entirely off balance. The other 2 thugs drop their pipes instantly, stumbling awkwardly over their own feet. Before Dex can even process what just happened, I step effortlessly inside his broken guard. I don't even need to make a fist. I throw a heavy, flat palm strike directly into the center of his chest. The impact sounds like a thick tree branch snapping in half. 2 of his ribs crack instantly under the crushing force of my 20 attribute points in physical strength. Dex spits up a mouthful of blood and goes flying backward like a broken kite, crashing heavily onto the rough asphalt and sliding 3 feet. The 2 thugs freeze, their faces draining of all color. They look at their boss writhing on the ground, clutching his caved-in chest, and they drop their remaining weapons, backing away with their hands raised. Brad's smug smile totally vanishes. He stares at his terrifying older brother, groaning in a pool of his own spit, turns around, and practically sprints off the school grounds like an absolute coward, abandoning his family without a second thought. I stand over Dex and listen to the familiar blue interface chime in my mind. Ding. Combat victory registered. 100 experience points awarded. Host has reached Tier 2. Active skill upgraded, gravitational aura radius increased to 10 meters. Passive trait unlocked, high density bone structure. The moment the prompt fades, I gasp and suck in a breath of cold air. A terrifying burning heat violently rushes through my entire skeleton. It feels like molten iron is being directly injected into my marrow. My bones literally harden and compress, becoming as dense as reinforced steel. I can feel the sheer kinetic potential locked inside my frame now. I could punch through a brick wall and not even scratch my knuckles. But the rapid cellular mutation comes with an immediate, massive drawback. A hollow, agonizing hunger suddenly rips through my stomach. The system's rapid biological conversion is burning calories like a blast furnace. I realize instantly that my new body requires a massive caloric intake just to maintain basic functions, let alone progress further. I need high-end protein, supplements, and rare resources, and I need cold hard cash to buy them. I look down at Dex. I walk over and plant my foot heavily on his broken ribs. He lets out a high-pitched scream. "You brought lethal weapons onto school property," I say coldly, leaning down so only he can hear me. "That's an aggravated assault charge. I'm willing to settle this out of court right here. I want financial compensation." Dex's eyes are filled with extreme fear. He stares up at me like he's looking at a literal monster. "I don't have any cash on me," he chokes out, coughing up more blood. I press my shoe down just a fraction of an inch, grinding the fractured bone against his lung. "I accept digital transfers. $10,000. Now." Dex fumbles frantically in his pockets, pulling out his cracked phone with shaking, bloody fingers. He opens his banking app and transfers $10,000 directly into my account. My phone buzzes, confirming the deposit, but I know 10 grand is just a drop in the bucket for what I'm going to need. "Where do you get your money?" I demand, keeping my foot firmly planted. "Who pays you to fight?" Dex is completely subjugated. He doesn't even try to lie. "The Iron Pit? It's an underground arena in the shipping district. Warehouse 4. Just take your foot off me." I kick him aside casually, step over his trembling body, and get into Marcus's car. I start the engine and drive right out of the parking lot, leaving the entire student body standing in total, stunned silence. By the time the sun goes down, I pull into the dark, rusted shipping district by the docks. The smell of old diesel and salt water fills the air. I park the sedan in a dark alley and walk up to the heavy metal doors of Warehouse 4. Two massive bouncers step in my way, but they take one look at my cold eyes and my densely packed 200-pound frame and silently step aside. I walk inside and the noise hits me like a physical wall. The massive warehouse is packed with hundreds of screaming degenerates, gang members, and high rollers waving thick stacks of cash. In the dead center of the room is a blood-stained canvas ring surrounded by heavy chain-link fencing. I don't waste any time taking in the sights. I walk straight up to the registration desk where a greasy promoter with a gold chain is angrily counting bets on a clipboard. I slam my phone face up on his desk, displaying my $10,000 balance. "I want a match," I state bluntly. "I'm wagering all of this on myself. Give me an opponent that maximizes the payout." The promoter stops counting and looks up, sizing me up with a mocking sneer. "You're a new face. We don't do amateur hour in the pit, kid. If you want the real money, you fight the reigning champion, Bane. $50,000 prize pool if you survive, but he's gonna snap your neck in the first round." I don't even blink. Set it up. 10 minutes later, the promoter announces my name and I step through the chain link gate into the center of the ring. The crowd is absolutely ruthless. "Look at this fresh meat." A guy in the front row yells, spilling his beer on the floor. "Bane is gonna tear his arms off." Easiest bet of my entire life. The crowd watching couldn't believe my sheer arrogance for challenging the champion on my first night. I couldn't care less. I just crack my neck and stand perfectly still in the center of the canvas. Across the ring, the heavy gate swings open and Bane steps inside. He's a towering 250-pound wall of muscle covered in thick scars and prison ink. He looks at my lean frame and lets out a dark, mocking laugh. "I'm gonna break you in half, pretty boy," Bane sneers, slamming his taped fists together loudly. "You should have stayed in school." The referee drops his hand and the bell rings. Bane doesn't even bother circling me or sizing me up. He has zero respect for my presence. He just lowers his massive shoulders and charges straight at me like a raging bull, attempting a brutal grappling tackle meant to lift me off my feet and slam my spine directly into the hard canvas. In my past life, a guy this size looking at me would have given me a panic attack. Right now, his movements look incredibly slow and entirely predictable. I don't dodge. I don't even shift my stance. I hold my ground and mentally trigger my upgraded gravitational aura, instantly projecting the 10-meter invisible field across the entire ring. The effect is devastating. Bane's eyes go wide with sudden panic as an invisible 50 pounds of dead weight locks instantly onto his center of gravity. His thick legs fail to compensate for the sudden gravitational shift. His boots drag heavily against the canvas, completely ruining his forward momentum. He stumbles awkwardly, totally off balance, leaving his entire upper body wide open. I don't hold anything back. I channel all of my raw physical strength and the passive power of my newly unlocked high-density bone structure directly into my right fist. My knuckles feel like a block of solid titanium. I step into his stumble and throw a single, flawless punch directly into the side of Bane's jaw. The impact echoes over the screaming crowd like a loud gunshot. I literally feel his jawbone shatter against my fist. Bane's eyes roll completely into the back of his head before his knees even hit the floor. The 250-pound reigning champion drops unconscious to the mat with a massive thud. He doesn't even twitch. The entire underground arena goes dead silent. The screaming stops entirely. Nobody even breathes. The unbeatable champion just got laid out completely cold with a single punch from a high school kid. Ding. The system chimes happily in my ear. Ranked opponent defeated. 50 experience points awarded. I casually lower my fist, step over Bane's massive body, and look right at the promoter standing ringside. His jaw is practically touching the floor. My money, I say simply. A few minutes later, the sweating, terrified promoter hands me a heavy black duffel bag stuffed with $50,000 in crisp, untraceable bills. Up on the second floor VIP viewing deck, hidden entirely in the shadows, Victor stands perfectly still. He's the ruthless syndicate boss who runs this entire shipping district, and he just watched his most profitable fighter get flattened in 2 seconds flat. But Victor doesn't look angry at all. A dark, predatory interest flashes in his cold eyes. He watches me walk away with his money, then turns to the heavily armed guards standing silently behind him. Find out exactly who that kid is, Victor orders quietly, pointing a cigar down at the empty ring. I want him working for me by tomorrow, whatever the cost. I walk out the back exit into the cool night air, breathing in the saltwater breeze. I reach my parked sedan, pop the trunk, and toss the heavy duffel bag inside. My financial independence is completely secured, and I finally have enough capital to start feeding this system's insane demands. I slam the trunk shut, but before I can even pull out my keys to start the car, the familiar glowing blue interface flashes aggressively across my vision, blocking my sight entirely. Ding. Milestone reached. To initiate the Tier 3 evolution process, host must consume the marrow of a Class C anomaly and survive the localized gravitational pressure of a fully collapsed spatial zone. I stare at the glowing blue text floating right in front of my face in the dark alley. Class C anomaly? Fully collapsed spatial zone? I just let out a cold laugh. This system must be pulling its baseline data from whatever hellish high-tier dimension it originally came from. I don't have time to go hunting for mythical space monsters, and I'm pretty sure Earth doesn't have any collapsed spatial zones lying around. System, recalculate evolution requirements based on current planetary resources and host's environment. The blue interface flickers wildly for a second before a new chime echoes in my head. Ding. System recalibrating to local planetary constraints. Alternative Tier 3 advancement requirements generated. Host must consume 100,000 calories of dense protein and achieve a combat victory against a recognized martial expert. I nod. That's a lot more realistic. The combat victory won't be an issue, but 100,000 calories of pure protein is an insane amount of food for a normal human to eat. Good thing I have 50 grand in untraceable cash sitting in the trunk. But before I can even open the driver's side door, 4 heavy sets of footsteps echo behind me. I turn around slowly. 4 massive guys in cheap black suits are blocking the alley exit. They have the same dead, cold look in their eyes as the bouncers inside the iron pit. The guy in the front has a thick scar running down his neck. He pulls a folded piece of paper out of his jacket and tosses it onto the hood of my car. It's a standard syndicate contract. Victor sent us, the scarred guy says, his voice dripping with pure arrogance. He likes your style, kid. He's willing to overlook you breaking his champion's jaw, but you work for him now. Sign the paper. You fight when we tell you to, you throw the matches we tell you to throw, and the syndicate keeps 70% of your earning. You get to keep breathing. That's the deal. The other 3 guards cross their arms, clearly expecting me to just roll over and beg for my life. In my past life, if 4 armed syndicate thugs backed me into a corner, I would have dropped to my knees and cried until they kicked my teeth in. I remember how weak I used to be, letting guys like Marcus and Brad walk all over me just because they were a little louder and a little stronger. Not anymore. A cold smirk tugs at the corner of my mouth. 70%? I say flatly. You guys really think highly of yourselves. Tell Victor he can keep his contract. The scarred guy's eyes widen in genuine shock, then his face flushes with pure anger. You stupid little punk. You think just because you got a lucky punch on Bane, you're untouchable? Break his legs. The guards reach into their jackets, probably going for firearms or batons, but they don't even get the chance to draw. I don't move a single muscle. I just mentally trigger my 10-meter gravitational aura. The invisible pressure drops on them instantly. I don't even bother aiming it precisely, I just flood the entire alleyway with a 20% weight increase right on top of their heads. 4 guards gasp in unison. Their knees buckle instantly under the sudden crushing force. The scarred guy spits up a mouthful of blood as his face smashes directly into the hard asphalt. The other 3 collapse right next to him, pinned completely flat against the ground like insects under a boot. They try to push themselves up, but their arms just shake violently, completely unable to fight the artificial gravity. Ding. Combat victory registered. 40 experience points awarded. I don't even look at them as I slide into the driver's seat. I start the engine and drive right out of the alley, leaving them choking on exhaust fumes. I navigate the dark streets and head straight for the industrial district on the edge of town. I don't have time to mess around with grocery stores. I need wholesale quantities if I'm going to hit 100,000 calories by tomorrow. I pull into the loading dock of a massive 24-hour wholesale fitness supplier. The guy working the night shift looks like he wants to sleep, but when I walk in and drop a stack of crisp $100 bills on the counter, his eyes widen instantly. I buy out his entire premium stock. I spend exactly $40,000 on massive industrial tubs of pure whey isolate, crates of dense nutritional calorie blocks, and heavy boxes of military-grade protein paste. I load it all into the back of Marcus's sedan until the suspension is practically bottoming out. I drive straight back to Marcus's house. The place is completely dead and quiet. Marcus is probably still passed out somewhere nursing his crushed ribs. I drag all the boxes into the kitchen, rip open the first tub of whey isolate, and start eating. It doesn't taste like anything, just dry, chalky powder, but I don't care. The dungeon doesn't care about taste, and neither does my system. I just scoop it directly into my mouth and wash it down with tap water. The moment the dense protein hits my stomach, the high-gravity system violently kicks in. I can feel the intense metabolic conversion burning like a furnace inside my gut. The system immediately breaks down the raw mass, liquefying the calories and forcefully injecting the energy straight into my muscle fibers. My internal temperature skyrockets. Sweat pours down my face. I spend the next 12 hours straight sitting on the kitchen floor, tearing open protein blocks and downing tubs of powder in a frantic, machine-like rhythm. The hunger is unbearable, but the system burns through it just as fast as I can swallow. By the time the sun comes up, the kitchen is entirely littered with empty plastic tubs and torn foil wrappers. I swallow the final bite of military protein paste and let out a heavy breath. Ding, system notification. Tier 3 nutritional requirement successfully met. 5 core strength points awarded. I clench my fists. I can literally feel the new muscle density locking into place. My veins bulge against my skin like thick steel cables. My 200-pound frame hasn't gotten any bulkier, but the raw, compressed power hidden underneath my skin is terrifying. I check the time on my phone. School is starting. I still need to find a recognized martial expert to smash to get my final requirement. I take a quick shower, put on a clean shirt, and drive Marcus's sedan back to the high school. I walk right through the front doors, and the reaction is exactly the same as yesterday. The hallway completely freezes. The peanut gallery immediately starts whispering. He actually showed up, a junior whispers loudly. I heard Dex's gang is looking for him. Why isn't he hiding? Another girl shakes her head. He's totally dead. Look at him walking around like he owns the place. Brad is going to kill him. I hear every single word and I just smile. I don't care about these useless extras. I walk straight into the massive indoor gymnasium. I figure the athletic department is the best place to find someone who thinks they know how to fight. But the moment I step onto the hardwood floor, I see I don't even need to go looking. Brad is standing right in the center of the basketball court. His arm is still in a sling from yesterday, but he looks incredibly smug. He bypassed the school administration entirely. Standing right next to him is a guy I don't recognize, but the system does. The guy is tall, lean, and wearing a tight black shirt. He has metal plates bolted onto his knuckles. I pull up his stats instantly. Silas. Level 18. Martial expert. Victor's personal syndicate enforcer. Brad points his good arm right at my face and lets out a loud, obnoxious laugh. You really thought you could just steal my money and embarrass my family? Brad yells, his voice echoing across the empty gym. Dex was just a sloppy street fighter. Silas is a professional. Victor sent him to completely fracture all 4 of your limbs as payback for rejecting his contract last night. You're going to be drinking out of a straw for the rest of your pathetic life. Silas cracks his neck and steps forward. His face is completely deadpan, totally lacking any emotion. Nothing personal, kid, Silas says coldly. You should have taken the 70%. Now I have to make an example out of you, so the rest of the underground knows the syndicate doesn't take no for an answer. He doesn't even give me a second to reply. He just lunges forward with terrifying speed. He's way faster than Bane or Dex. He closes the distance in a fraction of a second and throws a devastatingly fast right hook aimed directly at my ribcage. The titanium knuckles gleam in the harsh gym lights. In my previous life, I wouldn't have even seen the punch coming. It would have caved my chest in instantly. But with my upgraded agility and my high-density bone structure, Silas looks like he's moving underwater. I don't even step back. I just wait until the titanium knuckles are exactly 2 inches from my ribs, then I mentally alter the output of my gravitational aura. Instead of creating a wide field, I compress the entire 20% weight increase directly onto Silas's forearms. The sudden, extreme shift in localized gravity is devastating. Silas's eyes widen in sheer panic as his arms suddenly feel like they weigh 100 pounds each. The invisible pressure violently drags his strike straight down to the floor. His perfect martial stance is completely shattered. He stumbles forward, completely off balance, leaving his entire sternum totally exposed. I step right into his guard. I grab him by the back of the neck with one hand to hold him in place, and I drive my knee directly upward into the center of his chest. The impact sounds like a car crash. My 5 new core strength points explode into his torso. I literally feel his ribcage completely cave in under my knee. Silas spits up a massive mouthful of blood. His eyes roll back into his head, and the moment I let go of his neck, he drops like a sack of dead weight and smashes into the hardwood floor with a heavy thud. He's completely incapacitated. He doesn't even twitch. The gym goes totally silent. Ding! The system chimes rapidly in my ear. Combat victory against a recognized martial expert achieved. 200 experience points awarded. Host has successfully advanced to Tier 3. Active skill unlocked, Gravity Well. Host can now forcibly pull objects or targets toward a designated focal point. 10 agility points awarded. The sudden rush of new stats floods my nervous system. I can feel my reaction time doubling instantly. I feel lighter, faster, absolutely untouchable. Brad's face drains of all color. He looks at Silas's broken body on the floor, then looks up at me. His entire tough guy act evaporates in a millisecond. He lets out a pathetic gasp, turns around, and starts sprinting toward the gym exit as fast as his legs can carry him. I didn't say you could leave, I say coldly. I mentally trigger my brand new skill. Gravity Well. I target the empty space right behind Brad's feet. An invisible vortex of gravitational force instantly tears through the air. Brad screams in pure terror as the unnatural suction violently drags him backward. His feet completely leave the ground. He flies backward through the air and crashes heavily onto his back right at my feet. He tries to scramble away, but I just plant my foot firmly right on the center of his chest, pinning him to the floor. Please. Brad chokes out, tears literally streaming down his face. I'm sorry. Don't break my other arm. I don't have any more cash on me, I swear. I look down at him with total disgust. People like him only understand pure, overwhelming force. I reach down, grab his wrist, and forcefully unbuckle the heavy silver designer watch he's wearing. This looks like it's worth at least $2 grand, I say flatly, slipping the watch into my pocket as compensation for him wasting my time. Get out of my sight before I change my mind. I take my foot off his chest. Brad scrambles backward like a terrified rat and sprints out of the gym doors without looking back once. I just stand there feeling the power coursing through my veins. Suddenly, the stolen phone in my pocket vibrates. It's Marcus's phone, the one I took yesterday. I pull it out and look at the cracked screen. There's a new text message from an unknown number, but I know exactly who it is. The message is short and blunt. We track the car. The syndicate knows your home address. Victor is sending an armed squad tonight to collect you. You're dead. I stare at the text message. They actually think they can come to my house and intimidate me. They have absolutely no idea what they are dealing with. I just pocket the phone and turn my back on Silas's bleeding body. I walk right out of the gymnasium doors into the bright morning sun. Waiting for them to show up at my house is a waste of time. I have my new Tier 3 abilities, and I am completely done playing defense. I'm going to walk right into the shipping district and preemptively dismantle the syndicate's headquarters piece by piece. Driving Marcus's sedan through the early morning traffic, I don't feel an ounce of hesitation. I keep my foot pressed hard on the gas pedal, heading straight for the shipping district. In my past life, just the thought of the local crime syndicate would make my stomach turn into knots. Back then, I was just a 500-pound punching bag who couldn't even defend himself against a lazy high school quarterback, let alone an entire network of underground criminals. But everything is different now. My body is a highly calibrated weapon, my bones are essentially dense steel, and I have the high gravity system feeding me pure, unfiltered power. Victor thinks he can just send a squad to my house and force me into submission because that's how the world usually works. The strong step on the weak. Well, he's about to find out exactly where he sits on the food chain. I pull the sedan right up to the front entrance of the Iron Pit warehouse. The sun is barely up, but the syndicate doesn't sleep. 4 heavily armed guards are standing by the massive metal doors. They see the car pull up, and they instantly recognize it from my visit last night. Before I even put the car in park, all 4 of them draw high-caliber firearms and aim them directly at my windshield. I step out of the car, completely unbothered. "You've got a lot of nerve coming back here, kid," the lead guard barks, keeping his gun trained right on my chest. "Victor said you were a dead man walking. Get on your knees and put your hands behind your head right now." I just let out a cold laugh. Guns. The ultimate equalizer for normal people. A week ago, staring down 4 barrels would have made me beg for my life. Now they just look like cheap metal toys. I don't say a single word. I just lock my eyes on the exact center of their group and activate my new Tier 3 skill, Gravity Well. The effect is instantaneous and absolutely devastating. An invisible vortex of crushing gravitational force rips into the space right between them. The guards don't even have time to pull their triggers. The massive spike in local gravity violently tears the heavy firearms straight out of their grips. The guns fly through the air and smash into the concrete floor so hard the metal frames completely shatter on impact. The guards gasp in sheer terror, staring at their empty hands like they've just seen a ghost. Their faces drain of all color. They try to step back, but the residual gravity pulls them off balance, dropping all 4 of them to their knees. I don't even bother hitting them. They aren't worth the experience points. I just walk right past their pathetic, shaking bodies, step up to the warehouse doors, and kick them completely off their hinges. The heavy steel doors crash inward, and I walk straight into the Syndicate's VIP lounge. This isn't the dirty fighting arena from last night. This room is lined with expensive leather couches and tables piled high with chips. Victor is standing at the front of the room holding a sleek metal briefcase, currently hosting an illegal underground betting auction for a crowd of wealthy city elites. The sudden crash of the doors makes everyone freeze. The rich patrons turn to look at me, and the entire room immediately breaks out into nervous whispers. "Who is this kid?" A guy in an expensive suit mutters. "Did he just bypass Victor's armed security? Is he insane?" A woman next to him shakes her head. He's totally dead. Nobody disrespects the iron pit like this and walks away breathing. Victor is going to make an example out of him. I hear every single word from the peanut gallery. I completely ignore them and lock eyes with Victor. The syndicate boss's face twists into a mask of pure fury. He recognizes me instantly. "You stupid, arrogant little brat," Victor spits, his eyes flashing with killing intent. "I gave you a chance to make money and you spit in my face. Now you break into my headquarters? Kill him right now. Break every single bone in his body." He points his finger at me, and 3 of his elite enforcers instantly detach from the shadows. These aren't the cheap street thugs I fought outside. I pull up their stats instantly. All 3 are level 20. Elite syndicate martial artists. They move with perfect synchronization, rushing me from 3 different angles to cut off any chance of escape. They think their numerical advantage means something. I just smirk. The moment they cross the 10-meter mark, I project my gravitational aura. I don't just compress it this time. I flood the entire room with a massive 20% weight increase. The 3 enforcers hit the invisible wall of gravity, and their perfect sprint immediately turns into a sluggish, agonizing crawl. Their eyes widen in absolute panic as their limbs suddenly feel like they are submerged in wet cement. They try to push through it, but they are totally exposed. I step forward, utilizing the sheer explosive power of my high-density bone structure. I don't need fancy martial arts. I just need overwhelming force. I deliver 3 precise, rapid-fire palm strikes directly to their chest. The impact sounds like dry wood snapping in half. My reinforced bones easily fracture their sternums. All 3 enforcers spit up mouthfuls of blood simultaneously, their eyes rolling to the back of their heads as the force of the blows completely short-circuits their nervous systems. They hit the floor like sacks of wet garbage, completely unconscious. Ding. System notification. Multiple combat victories registered. 150 experience points awarded. The entire VIP lounge goes dead silent. The wealthy elites are practically choking on their own breath. They just watched 3 of the city's deadliest underground fighters get dismantled in less than 2 seconds by a high school student. Victor's arrogant sneer completely vanishes. His face turns ash gray. He realizes instantly that he is entirely outmatched. Without a second thought, he tightens his grip on the metal briefcase, turns his back, and sprints toward the rear exit door as fast as his legs can carry him. "You think you can just run away?" I say flatly. I trigger gravity well and target the empty space right behind his fleeing feet. The invisible suction grabs Victor like a giant hand. He screams as his momentum is forcefully reversed. His feet completely leave the floor, and he gets dragged backward through the air, crashing onto the hardwood right in front of me with a heavy thud. He tries to scramble away, clutching the briefcase to his chest. I don't give him the chance. I step my heavy shoe directly onto his right wrist and apply a fraction of my core strength. The bone snaps cleanly under my sole. Victor lets out a pathetic, agonizing shriek, his hand springing open and dropping the metal briefcase. I reach down and pick it up, popping the latches open with my thumb. The case is completely packed with thick stacks of $100 bills. $300,000 in untraceable cash. I snap the case shut. This is mine now. Ding. System notification. Local syndicate leadership completely dismantled. 200 experience points awarded. Host has advanced to Tier 3 Level 2. Passive trait unlocked. Kinetic absorption. The system data floods my brain, and I quickly analyze the new skill. Kinetic absorption is absolutely insane. Any blunt physical impact directed at my body will now be partially absorbed and instantly converted into raw stamina. The harder they hit me, the longer I can fight. I'm no longer just a heavy hitter. I am an impenetrable tank. I turn away from Victor's groaning body and look directly at the crowd of terrified VIP patrons. They are huddled together in the corner of the lounge, shaking like leaves. Listen to me very carefully, I announce, my voice echoing off the walls. You're all here participating in an illegal syndicate auction. That makes you accessories. If you want to walk out of those doors with your kneecaps intact, take out your phones and empty your digital wallets into my account. Consider it an exit fee. The rich elites don't even hesitate. They are completely broken by fear. They frantically pull out their phones and start transferring funds, practically tripping over each other to pay for their safety. Thousands of dollars start pouring into my account by the second. But right in the middle of the panic, one older man steps forward from the crowd. He isn't shaking. He isn't panicking. He looks at me with an expression of pure, calculating intrigue. I quickly check his stats. Level 35, Instructor Thorn. He reaches into his expensive suit jacket, but instead of pulling out a weapon or a phone, he pulls out a solid gold token engraved with a fierce tiger emblem. He tosses it to me. I catch it easily with one hand. I don't care about the syndicate's petty cash, Thorn says, his voice completely calm. I am Instructor Thorn from the Apex Martial Academy. I've watched Street Fighters for 20 years, but I've never seen someone utilize raw, crushing pressure the way you do. You have ruthless efficiency, kid. That token grants you participation in the city's annual underground combat tournament next month. Only the absolute best are invited. I look down at the gold token and a cold smirk tugs at the corner of my mouth. A massive citywide combat tournament. In my past life, that would just be a place for me to get beaten to death. Now, that tournament is nothing but a massive field of high-level opponents waiting for me to harvest their experience points. It is the absolute perfect environment to farm my way to Tier 4. I'll be there, I say, pocketing the token along with the briefcase. On the floor, Victor coughs up a huge wad of blood. He's clutching his broken wrist, staring up at me with sheer hatred. You think you've won? Victor rasps, his breathing ragged. You think you can just take my money and walk away? My primary financial backer is a Tier 4 martial master at the Apex Academy. When he finds out you destroyed his operation, he won't just kill you. He'll tear you apart piece by piece. I look down at Victor, completely unimpressed by his pathetic attempt at intimidation, relying on someone else's strength because you have none of your own. It's truly pathetic. Tell your Tier 4 backer to get in line, I say bluntly. I don't waste another second on him. I walk out of the VIP lounge, pull the heavy steel doors shut, and grab a heavy metal chain from the floor to lock them securely from the outside. Let them sit in the dark and panic. I walk back out into the morning air, toss the heavy briefcase of cash into the trunk of Marcus's sedan, and get behind the wheel. The drive back to the house is quiet and peaceful. I can feel the massive pool of stamina sitting in my chest, completely refilled by my new kinetic absorption trait. I pull into the driveway of my house and walk up to the front porch. The door is slightly ajar. I push it open and step inside. The hallway is an absolute mess. Drawers are pulled out, papers are scattered everywhere, and standing right in the middle of the living room is Marcus. My stepfather is frantically stuffing clothes and loose cash into a cheap suitcase, his face completely covered in sweat. He's panicking. He thinks Victor's men are coming to the house to kill us both because I rejected the contract last night. He hasn't even realized that I've already ripped the entire syndicate out by the roots. Marcus freezes when he hears my footsteps. He looks up, his eyes darting from my face down to the heavy metal briefcase in my hand. He doesn't know what it is, but his greed instantly overrides his fear. I just look at him, remembering how he kicked me in the ribs while I was starving on the floor just 2 days ago. I smile, reach back, and lock the front door right behind me. The loud click of the deadbolt makes Marcus freeze completely in the center of the living room. He drops the cheap suitcase onto the floor, his hands shaking violently as he stares at me. He doesn't know what's inside the heavy metal briefcase I'm holding, but he knows I didn't come back here to negotiate. His panic completely overrides whatever little common sense he has left. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a concealed black handgun, leveling the barrel directly at my head. "Step aside, Arthur." Marcus screams, his voice cracking with desperation. "I'm leaving. You think you're tough now just because you beat up some street thugs? I'll put a bullet right between your eyes." I just look at him, completely unbothered. In my past life, this man used to beat me black and blue for breaking a cheap dining chair. He locked me in a basement and starved me to try and steal my dead mother's money. Now he's standing in my living room, holding a gun on me like he actually holds some kind of power. It's genuinely pathetic. Guns are the ultimate crutch for weak people who have no actual physical authority. I don't even blink. I lock my eyes onto the empty space directly behind his back and instantly trigger gravity well. The invisible vortex of crushing gravitational force violently rips into the air right behind him. Marcus doesn't even have a fraction of a second to brace himself. The sudden extreme suction yanks his entire 200-pound body backward off his feet. He screams in sheer terror as he flies through the air, his grip slipping entirely as the sudden shift in gravity tears the firearm right out of his hands. The handgun clatters loudly onto the hardwood floor, and Marcus crashes into the drywall with a heavy thud. I step forward effortlessly, bring my heavy shoe down onto the steel frame of the fallen weapon, and apply a fraction of my high-density bone structure. The steel frame crunches and snaps completely flat under my sole, turning the dangerous weapon into a piece of useless scrap metal. Marcus scrambles backward on the floor until he hits the corner of the room, his face draining of all color. He's gasping for air, staring at his crushed gun like his brain physically can't process what he just witnessed. I step over the broken metal and look down at him. "My mother's life insurance money," I say flatly. "The funds you were trying to extort from me while I was starving on the concrete floor. Transfer the rest of it right now, or I'll break both of your arms and do it myself." Marcus is shaking so hard his teeth are practically chattering. The absolute physical dominance I just displayed has completely broken his spirit. He fumbles desperately in his pockets for his phone, his sweaty fingers slipping across the screen. Okay, just don't hurt me. It's the final $80,000. I'm sending it from my offshore account right now. Just let me leave. A second later, my stolen phone buzzes in my pocket. I don't even need to verify it. I step forward, grab him by the collar of his jacket, and haul his entire body off the floor with one hand. I unlock the front door, drag him out onto the porch, and casually throw him off the steps. He hits the front lawn with a painful groan, clutching his bruised ribs. "You are permanently evicted," I tell him coldly. "If you ever step foot on my property again, I won't just break your bones. I'll bury you." I slam the front door shut, officially cutting off the dead weight of my past. Ding. The system chimes rapidly in my head. Core trauma fully resolved. 300 experience points awarded. Host has advanced to Tier 3 Level 3. Agility attribute permanently increased by 5 points. A sudden, scorching wave of heat rushes through my bloodstream, tightening my muscle fibers and optimizing my newly chiseled physique. My reflexes feel terrifyingly sharp, and the lingering mental weight of my past abuse completely evaporates. I'm finally free and I'm heavily funded, but I have no intention of slowing down. To keep feeding the high-gravity system, I need to find higher-level opponents, and I need a massive amount of experience points. I reach into my pocket and pull out the gold tier token instructor Thorn threw at me in the Syndicate Lounge. It's time to cash this in and step into the real martial world. I walk out the back door, climb into the driver's seat of Marcus's sedan, and drive straight across the city toward the Apex Martial Academy. It doesn't take long to spot it. The academy is a massive, sprawling complex located right in the center of the wealthy district, completely walled off from the rest of the city. This is the place where all the rich elites and corporate bosses send their kids to buy power and influence. I park the car in the visitor lot and walk straight into the main registration hall. The room is gigantic, filled with hundreds of stuck-up martial artists wearing expensive silk training uniforms. They're all standing around in little exclusive cliques, loudly bragging about their stats and showing off their academy ranks. As soon as I walk through the double doors wearing my cheap, ordinary street clothes, the entire room immediately goes dead silent. The peanut gallery doesn't waste a single second. Who let this garbage in here? A guy whispers loudly. Look at him. He doesn't even have a clan emblem on his chest. He's probably here to apply for a janitor position. A girl next to him sneers. Security is getting incredibly lazy. Commoners shouldn't be allowed to breathe the same air as inner court disciples. Someone needs to throw him out. I hear every single word and I just let out a cold laugh. They're all so arrogant behind their safe little academy walls, judging people based on clothing instead of combat data. I completely ignore their whining and walk straight toward the front registration desk, but before I can even take 10 steps, a group of elite disciples deliberately steps directly into my path. They are all wearing bright red sashes around their waists, aggressively blocking the hallway. The guy leading them is a tall, arrogant-looking senior student with a permanent scowl on his face. I pull up his stats instantly. Level 25. Vance. He looks me up and down, his eyes narrowing sharply as he recognizes my face from the underground reports he undoubtedly received this morning. "You're that unsanctioned street rat," Vance spits, his voice dripping with absolute hostility. "The one who broke into the Iron Pit 2 hours ago and completely dismantled Victor's syndicate auction. You actually have the nerve to show your face in our academy?" He cracks his knuckles, a smug, highly entitled smirk spreading across his face. Victor's primary financial backer is Elder Kale. He's my direct master. You just ruined our faction's primary underground revenue stream, and you think you can just waltz in here and register for the city tournament? I don't give a damn about his master or his lost revenue. I just hold up the gold tier token Thorn gave me. I was officially invited. Move out of my way. Vance just laughs mockingly, and the red sash disciples behind him start snickering like a pack of hyenas. That token is completely worthless in your hands, you stupid commoner. Vance sneers. You don't belong here. I'm going to shatter both of your knees right here in the lobby, drag your crippled body upstairs to Elder Kale, and let him use you as a bleeding training dummy for the rest of your miserable life. Vance doesn't even wait for me to respond. He violently shifts his weight and launches himself forward, initiating a blindingly fast, high-speed sweeping kick aimed directly at my knee joints. It's a brutal, highly technical strike meant to instantly cripple an opponent and shatter their bones upon impact. In his arrogant mind, I'm already a screaming cripple rolling on the floor. But through my enhanced perception, his supposedly lightning-fast kick looks like it's moving through thick mud. I don't dodge. I don't even take a single step backward. I just lock my eyes onto his incoming leg and project my 10-meter gravitational aura. I instantly focus the entire field onto his sweeping limb, increasing the localized weight on his leg by a massive 20%. Vance's eyes widen in sheer, unadulterated panic as his leg suddenly becomes impossibly heavy. The localized gravity spike completely disrupts his perfect trajectory, dragging his foot downward and ruining his entire stance. The strike becomes incredibly sloppy, but I let it hit me anyway. His shin slams directly into my thigh with a loud smack. The exact millisecond his leg connects, my newly acquired passive trait, kinetic absorption, aggressively triggers. The blunt physical impact crashes into my high-density bone structure and is immediately absorbed, instantly converting the kinetic energy into pure, raw stamina that floods directly into my chest. I take absolutely zero damage. My health bar doesn't even flinch. Vance's smug smile is instantly wiped from his face. He sucks in a breath of cold air, staring at my leg like he just kicked a solid concrete pillar. My turn, I say flatly. Before Vance can even attempt to pull his leg back, I reach down and casually catch his ankle with my bare hand, completely locking his entire body in place. He tries to yank his leg away, his face turning red with exertion, but my grip is like an industrial steel vise. I step right inside his guard and deliver a devastating palm strike directly to the dead center of his chest. I don't use any fancy martial arts techniques. I just use the overwhelming, raw concussive force of my tier 3 core strength. The impact sounds like a dry tree branch snapping in half. My strike easily fractures 3 of his ribs right through his expensive uniform. Vance spits up a massive mouthful of blood and gets sent flying backward like a broken kite. He violently crashes into the heavy oak registration desk, splintering the thick wood into dozens of pieces. He slumps onto the floor, completely incapacitated and groaning in agony. The entire registration hall erupts into absolute chaos. The peanut gallery of rich disciples stares at Vance's unconscious body, their faces completely draining of color. The arrogant sneers vanish instantly, replaced by sheer terror. He just one-shotted Senior Vance. How is that physically possible? Vance is level 25, one of the disciples screams. The remaining red-sashed elites snap out of their shock. They draw their steel training swords and metallic staffs, their eyes flashing with anger as they surround me. Kill him. Avenge the senior. Break his arms. They shout, rushing me from all sides, stupidly thinking their numerical advantage will save them from my gravity. I just smirk and prepare to hit the entire group with a maximum output gravity well, but before I can even trigger the skill, a booming, authoritative voice echoes from the second floor staircase. Stand down instantly. Instructor Thorn steps out from the shadows, his massive level 35 presence flooding the hall and completely crushing the chaotic energy in the room. The elite disciples freeze dead in their tracks, immediately lowering their weapons and bowing their heads in absolute submission. Thorn walks slowly down the steps, entirely ignoring the disciples as he glances at Vance's broken body on the floor. Then he looks directly at me. He doesn't look angry about the property damage. He looks incredibly impressed. I gave you that token this morning because I wanted to see if your combat efficiency in the Iron Pit was just a fluke, Thorn says loudly, making sure every single snobby disciple in the hall hears him clearly. It seems I vastly underestimated you. Vance brought this severe humiliation upon himself for foolishly disregarding an official academy invitation. Thorn reaches into his expensive robes and pulls out a heavy, glowing metallic sphere. As compensation for the completely unacceptable misconduct of my academy's disciples, take this. It is a level 4 density core, a highly restricted premium resource usually reserved strictly for inner court elites. It will serve you well in the upcoming tournament. He casually tosses the heavy sphere right at me. I catch it easily with one hand. I can instantly feel the massive concentration of raw, incredibly dense energy radiating from the metal. The surrounding disciples are practically foaming at the mouth with bitter jealousy. Instructor Thorn just gave him a level 4 core? That takes 3 years of faction contribution points to earn. One of them mutters angrily. I don't care about their whining, and I certainly don't intend to wait until I get home to use it. I just tilt my head back, toss the heavy metallic sphere directly into my mouth, and swallow it whole right in front of the entire terrified crowd. The disciples gasp in absolute horror, watching me consume raw metal like it's a piece of candy. Is he completely insane? You have to meditate in a thermal chamber for 3 months to safely absorb a density core. It's going to physically tear his internal organs apart. I just let out a cold laugh. They are completely clueless. They don't have the high gravity system backing them up. The exact second the dense core hits my stomach, the system's unique metabolic conversion aggressively kicks into absolute overdrive. The intense, crushing localized gravity inside my digestive tract instantly pulverizes the extremely dense metal, forcefully extracting every single drop of raw energy and flooding it directly into my muscle fibers. Ding! The system chimes loudly in my vision. Level 4 density core successfully metabolized. 10 points permanently added to core strength attribute. Active skill unlocked, density shift. Host can now temporarily double their own physical mass during a direct strike, drastically multiplying total concussive damage output. I clench my fist, physically feeling the terrifying explosive power coursing violently through my dense bones. I am no longer just a heavy hitter. I am a walking, indestructible wrecking ball. Instructor Thorn watches me absorb the highly volatile core in less than 10 seconds without shedding a single drop of sweat, his eyes gleaming with profound professional respect. The registration ledger is waiting on the desk, he says smoothly. I completely ignore the trembling disciples, step over Vance's unconscious, bleeding body, and grab the pen. I quickly sign my name onto the official tournament roster, permanently locking in my path to absolute domination. But right as I set the pen down, a sharp, incredibly suffocating killing intent violently washes over the back of my neck. I don't turn around. I don't even flinch. I just shift my gaze slightly upward. Standing on the second floor balcony, looking down at me with absolute unhinged murderous rage, is a man wearing a luxurious gold-trimmed robe. I pull up his stats effortlessly. Level 45, Elder Kale, Victor's syndicate backer. His face is twisted into a vicious, ugly snarl, his fists clenched so tightly the wooden railing under his hands is literally splintering into pieces from the pressure. He doesn't shout. He doesn't make a scene in front of Thorn. He just glares at me, his lips moving as he silently swears to tear me apart for destroying his lucrative underground revenue stream. I just smirk directly at him, grab my newly minted registration badge from the splintered desk, and walk right out the main double doors, my permanently upgraded stats burning fiercely through my veins as I step out into the bright afternoon sunlight. The academy courtyard is massive and paved with expensive white stone, but I don't care about the architecture or the perfectly trimmed hedges. I only care about the heavy footsteps rapidly approaching from my left. Before I can even take 10 steps toward the main tournament grounds, a figure drops directly into my path, completely blocking the main pathway. It's Elder Kale. His level 45 stats hover right above his head in my vision, but the unhinged murderous rage I saw on the balcony just a minute ago is completely gone. Instead, he has this incredibly fake, condescending smile plastered across his face. He smooths out his luxurious gold-trimmed robes and looks down at me like I'm a diseased rat he caught scurrying across his clean floor. Not so fast, young man, Kale says, his voice intentionally loud enough for the entire courtyard of rich disciples to hear. Instructor Thorn might be easily impressed by a little parlor trick in the lobby, but Apex Academy has strict, unyielding standards. An outer token given to a completely unsanctioned commoner requires official validation before you can even think about stepping into the main arena. As an Academy Elder, I am officially mandating a preliminary physical endurance test to ensure you won't just die in the first round and embarrass our establishment. The peanut gallery of disciples immediately starts swarming around us, whispering and laughing with absolute malicious glee. Elder Kale is stepping in personally, a guy in a blue training sash sneers, pointing right at me. He's going to use the preliminary test to completely cripple that street trash. A girl next to him crosses her arms and rolls her eyes. Serves him right. You can't just break Senior Vance's ribs and expect to walk away unscathed. Kale is going to turn him into a bloody pulp in the testing room. I hear every single word they say, and a cold smirk tugs at the corner of my mouth. In my past life, whenever an authority figure cornered me or made up fake rules to punish me, I'd freeze up and take the abuse because I was weak, overweight, and didn't have the physical strength to fight back. But looking at Kale right now, I don't feel a single ounce of fear. I know exactly what this arrogant old fool is doing. He wants to drag me into a closed testing facility where Thorn can't interfere, lock the door, and completely crush me with high-level pressure as revenge for his lost syndicate money. He thinks he's setting a lethal, inescapable trap. He has absolutely no idea that my high-gravity system literally feeds on the exact physical force he is trying to use against me. Fine, I say flatly, staring right into his smug eyes without blinking. Lead the way. Let's get this over with. Kale's smile twitches, clearly annoyed that I'm not begging for mercy, and he turns on his heel, leading me toward a large, heavily reinforced building on the edge of the courtyard. We step inside, and the entire room is dominated by a massive cube-shaped steel chamber with thick hydraulic pipes running into the walls and a single reinforced observation window on the front. It's a standard pressurized gravity chamber used for high-tier physical cultivation. Step inside, Kale orders, crossing his arms. I don't hesitate for a second. I walk right through the heavy steel door and stand in the dead center of the room. The second my feet hit the metal floor, Kale slams the door shut from the outside, and I hear the heavy electronic deadbolt lock into place with a loud clank. I look through the thick observation glass and see Kale walking over to the main control console. The crowd of disciples has practically pressed their faces against the viewing window outside, eager to watch me get crushed into a fine paste. Kale grabs the intercom microphone, and his voice echoes loudly out of the speakers inside the steel box. The preliminary assessment requires you to withstand a Tier 2 gravity simulation for 5 minutes, Kale says smoothly, keeping up his fake professional act for the surrounding students. But the exact second he finishes his sentence, I watch his hands fly across the control board. He bypasses the safety protocols entirely and slams the primary output dial to the maximum allowed setting. The heavy machinery inside the walls groans loudly as he instantly calibrates the field to generate a gravitational force 5 times normal Earth gravity. That is pure Tier 4 pressure. For a normal Tier 3 fighter, suddenly having their body weight multiplied by 5 without any gradual buildup would instantly snap their spine, rupture their internal organs, and force them to their knees in agonizing, bloody defeat. The crushing pressure drops onto my shoulders like a solid block of lead. The air itself feels incredibly heavy, pushing down on my chest and trying to force my face into the metal floor. Outside the glass, the disciples are laughing. Look at him freeze. He can't even lift his arms. He's gonna pop like a water balloon. One of them shouts, but inside the chamber, I just stand there, my feet planted firmly on the steel plating. Ding! The system interface flashes brightly in my vision, entirely ignoring the danger. External gravitational field detected. Threat level classified as 0. Environment classified as optimal cultivation zone. Initiating system absorption protocol, converting external kinetic pressure into raw system experience. A massive, rushing wave of heat explodes inside my chest as the high-gravity system forcefully hijacks the crushing pressure in the room. The system acts like a massive vacuum, aggressively sucking the heavy gravitational force right out of the air and filtering it directly into my muscle fibers. The agonizing weight pushing down on my shoulders completely vanishes, replaced by a soothing, burning sensation that actively repairs and hardens my high-density bone structure. I roll my shoulders, crack my neck, and let out a relaxed sigh. I don't collapse. I don't spit up a mouthful of blood. I just cross my arms and casually pace around the steel room like I'm taking a light stroll through a park. I spend the next 20 minutes doing absolutely nothing but standing there, letting the machine constantly feed my system-free experience point. Through the observation glass, I can see Kale's smug face completely draining of all color. His jaw is practically hitting the floor. He's staring at the digital readout on his console, checking to see if the machine is broken, but the dials clearly show the room is outputting 5 times normal gravity. The laughing disciples outside have gone completely dead silent. Why isn't he kneeling? One of them whispers, his voice shaking with sheer confusion. He's just walking around. That's Tier 4 pressure. His internal organs should be completely liquefied by now. Ding. The system chimes loudly in my head, signaling the end of the harvest. Absorption cycle complete. 500 experience points awarded. Host has advanced to Tier 4 Level 1. Core strength attribute permanently increased by 10 points. Endurance attribute permanently increased by 10 points. Active skill unlocked, gravity domain. Host can now freely manipulate the directional pull of gravity within a 15-meter radius, altering the environmental axis at will. I clench my fists, physically feeling the terrifying surge of upgraded Tier 4 power locking into my joints. My muscles feel denser, heavier, and completely overflowing with explosive kinetic energy. Outside, Kale has completely lost his mind. His fake professional act drops entirely, his face twisting into a furious, desperate snarl. If I walk out of this chamber unharmed, his reputation as an elder is entirely ruined. He aggressively grabs the override lever and forces the machine's output past its maximum safety limit. Red warning lights instantly start flashing across the facility. The steel walls around me begin to groan and warp as the internal mechanisms drastically overheat, threatening to tear the entire building apart just to bring me down. I look through the glass directly at Kale's panicked, sweaty face. Playtime is over. He wants to see what real pressure looks like. I'll show him. I step directly in front of the reinforced observation window and activate my newly acquired density shift skill. I focus the ability entirely on my right fist, instantly doubling its physical mass. My hand becomes incredibly heavy, dense enough to crack a bank vault, and I pull my arm back. I don't use a stance. I don't use a martial technique. I just throw a completely raw, straightforward punch directly into the center of the bulletproof glass. The impact sounds like a bomb going off inside the facility. My hyperdense fist completely obliterates the supposedly indestructible barrier, shattering the thick glass into thousands of jagged pieces. The sheer kinetic force of my Tier 4 core strength doesn't just break the window, it triggers a massive localized shockwave that blasts outward into the control room. The shockwave hits the observing disciples like a speeding truck. They scream in terror as they are sent flying backward, smashing into the floor and the far walls with heavy thuds. The control console sparks and completely shorts out, plunging the testing facility into a chaotic mess of smoke and flashing red emergency lights. The expensive gravity chamber is totally destroyed, completely reduced to smoking scrap metal. I casually brush some glass dust off my cheap shirt and step out through the massive hole I just created. The surrounding disciples are groaning on the floor, clutching their bruised ribs and staring up at me with absolute wide-eyed terror. Kale is frozen behind his ruined console, his hands shaking as he stares at my completely uninjured knuckles. Before he can even attempt to make an excuse, the heavy doors to the testing facility burst open. Instructor Thorn and 3 other high-ranking Academy elders rush into the room, their faces tight with alarm after hearing the explosion. Thorn looks at the smoking ruins of the gravity chamber, looks at the disciples scattered on the floor, and then his eyes lock onto the glowing red dials on the broken console. The dials are permanently frozen on the illegal maximum lethal output settings. Thorn's expression turns completely ice cold as he glares at Kale. Kale gasps, his entire body trembling. He knows he is totally trapped. If the Academy Council formally investigates him for attempting to murder an officially invited tournament guest using unauthorized lethal settings, he will be stripped of his elder status and thrown into the Academy dungeon. I don't give him a single second to recover. I point directly at his pale face and speak in a loud, highly aggressive tone. Elder Kale, your Academy's training equipment is completely defective and highly dangerous, I declare loudly, making sure Thorn and the other elders hear every single syllable. I stepped inside for a basic preliminary assessment, and the machine malfunctioned, locking me in a Tier 4 death trap and nearly exploding on top of me. Is this how Apex Academy treats its official guests? Attempting to crush them with broken machinery? Kale's eyes widen in sheer panic. He opens his mouth to call me a liar, to scream that he did it on purpose to avenge his syndicate, but he chokes on his own words. If he admits the truth, Thorn will arrest him on the spot. He is entirely cornered by my public accusation. Thorn steps forward, his level 35 presence pressing heavily on Kale. Elder Kale, this is an unacceptable breach of Academy safety protocols. The compensation for nearly killing an official participant due to your negligence will come directly out of your personal cultivation funds. Kale is grinding his teeth so hard I can actually hear them cracking. He reaches into his spatial pouch with a shaking hand, absolutely humiliated in front of his peers, and pulls out a glowing, pure white crystal. It's a Tier 4 spirit core, a highly condensed energy source that costs a massive fortune to synthesize. He practically shoves it into my hand, his eyes burning with intense, hateful venom. I just smile, totally unbothered by his killing intent. I don't put the core in my pocket. I tilt my head back and toss the raw crystal directly into my mouth, swallowing it whole right in front of his furious face. Ding. The system chimes rapidly. Tier 4 Spirit Core metabolized. 200 experience points awarded. Physical density permanently increased by 5%. Leaving Kale standing there shaking with impotent rage, I turn my back on the ruined testing facility and walk straight out the doors, heading directly for the main tournament arena. My token is fully validated, my stats are completely overflowing with raw power, and I am ready to start farming these rich kids for experience points. The main arena is gigantic, an open-air stone platform surrounded by massive stadium seating filled with hundreds of cheering spectators and corporate sponsors. I walk straight up to the digital registration board. The automated bracket system is already displaying the matches for the first round, and a cold laugh escapes my throat when I see my name on the glowing screen. Arthur versus Vance. The system paired me right back up with the arrogant senior disciple I humiliated in the lobby just an hour ago. He was supposed to be in the medical bay with 3 fractured ribs, but given the massive wealth of this academy, Kale clearly fed him high-tier healing pills to force him back into the bracket for revenge. I step up onto the rough stone arena platform, the afternoon sun beating down on my shoulders. On the opposite side of the ring, Vance steps up. He isn't wearing his standard silk slippers anymore. He's wearing a pair of thick, heavy metallic boots covered in glowing red runic inscriptions. I instantly pull up his data, and the system identifies the equipment immediately. Contraband detected. Runic combat boots equipped. Function: illegal weight-altering property designed to drastically increase kicking velocity and impact mass. Vance cracks his neck, a supremely smug, arrogant grin spreading across his face as he looks at me. "You think you're the only one who can manipulate weight, you street trash?" Vance sneers, his voice echoing across the silent arena. "My master gave me these. Your little lobby trick won't save you this time. I'm going to shatter your kneecaps, drop you to the floor, and stomp your completely worthless skull in front of the entire academy." The crowd in the stands starts cheering for him, entirely blind to the fact that he's openly cheating. I just stand there, my hands resting casually at my sides, looking at his glowing boots. This absolute idiot is actually trying to use gravity mechanics against the literal host of the high gravity system. It's almost too pathetic to watch. He shifts his stance, preparing to launch himself at me with his artificially enhanced speed. I don't even bother raising my fists. I just lock my eyes onto the stone floor beneath his feet and aggressively project my newly unlocked gravity domain, extending the invisible field outward to cover the entire 15-meter radius of the arena, preparing to violently invert the directional pull of gravity the exact millisecond his heavy boots leave the ground. Vance bends his knees and launches himself directly at my chest, his runic combat boots glowing with a blinding red light. He's moving entirely too fast for a normal Tier 3 fighter, totally relying on the illegal weight-altering property of his boots to drastically increase his kicking velocity and impact mass. "Die, you street trash." Vance screams at the top of his lungs, his face twisted into an ugly, arrogant sneer. This is what happens when you disrespect Elder Kale. The crowd in the stands is screaming his name, cheering for the senior disciple to completely cave my chest in. They're all so blind they don't even realize he's openly cheating in a sanctioned tournament. I just stand there and let a cold smirk tug at the corner of my mouth. Vance is putting all of his momentum into a high-velocity dropkick, totally committed to the downward trajectory. He thinks his artificially enhanced mass is going to crush me like a bug. He has absolutely no idea that my high-gravity system literally controls the fundamental laws of physics. The exact millisecond his heavy boots leave the stone platform, I activate my gravity domain, but I don't increase the downward pressure. Instead, I forcefully shift the directional pull of gravity in a 15-meter radius entirely sideways. The crushing weight of Vance's illegal boots is instantly pulled hard to the right. His smug smile completely freezes on his face as he violently loses his balance in midair. His enhanced mass completely turns against him, dragging his legs sideways and throwing his entire upper body into a chaotic, flailing spin. "What the hell?" Vance yells, his eyes widening in absolute panic as he completely misses my chest. He's totally helpless, stuck in the air without any leverage. I don't give him a single second to recover. I immediately apply my density shift skill directly to my right leg, instantly doubling its physical mass, and I step into a brutal sweeping kick right as his glowing boots descend past my waist. My hyperdense shin smashes directly into the side of his illegal boots. The impact sounds like a shotgun blasting inside the arena. The hidden technology inside the boots completely shatters, the glowing red runes instantly shorting out in a shower of sparks, but the kinetic force of my kick doesn't stop there. It rips straight through the ruined metal and transfers directly into his legs. I hear a sickening double crunch as both of his femurs completely fracture under the overwhelming Tier 4 pressure. Vance spits up a mouthful of blood and crashes onto the hard stone platform with a heavy thud, instantly grabbing his ruined legs and screaming in absolute agony. He's completely defeated, writhing on the floor and entirely unable to stand. Ding! The system chimes loudly in my head. Combat victory registered. Enemy equipment destroyed. 150 experience points awarded. I just casually step over Vance's crying, pathetic form and reach down, ripping one of the shattered metallic boots right off his foot. The broken metal is still sparking, the illegal runic inscriptions completely exposed for everyone to see. The entire arena goes dead silent. The cheering disciples in the stands are totally frozen, their mouths hanging open in sheer disbelief. What just happened? Someone whispers loudly. Vance didn't even touch him. His legs are completely broken. I ignore them and turn directly toward the VIP viewing deck where Instructor Thorn and the other Academy elders are sitting. I hold the heavy, sparking boot high in the air and point right at the glowing runes. Instructor Thorn. I shout, my voice echoing across the silent stadium. Is it standard Apex Academy policy to equip your outer disciples with Tier 3 runic weight-altering contraband just to win a preliminary match? Or is this just Elder Kale's personal brand of cheating? Thorn stands up immediately, his face draining of all color as he stares at the blatantly illegal equipment in my hand. His eyes shift directly to Elder Kale, who is sitting next to him on the viewing deck. Kale looks like he just swallowed a handful of glass. His hands are shaking, and he's grinding his teeth so hard I can hear it from the platform. He thought his disciples cheating was going to be an easy, undetectable execution. Thorn doesn't hesitate for a second. This is a severe violation of tournament regulations. Thorn barks, his voice filled with institutional hostility. Vance is officially disqualified, and Elder Kale, you will receive a formal disciplinary demerit on your permanent academy record for providing contraband to an active combatant. Another infraction and you will be stripped of your position. Kale's face twists into a look of pure homicidal rage, but he doesn't dare talk back to the head instructor in front of the corporate sponsors. He just glares at me with intense killing intent. I don't care. I just toss the broken boot onto the stone floor and step back to the center of the ring, completely unharmed and ready for the next round. Over the next hour, the tournament officials frantically try to find someone who can actually put a scratch on me. The automated bracket system keeps spitting out names, and one after another, the arrogant academy elites step onto the platform thinking they're going to be the one to put the street trash in his place. It's almost sad how predictable they are. The first guy is a speed specialist who tries to overwhelm me with a flurry of rapid punches. I don't even bother dodging. I just stand there and let him hit my chest utilizing my passive kinetic absorption trait. Every single strike he lands just feeds directly into my system, draining his strike energy completely while I take 0 damage. After 10 seconds, he's totally exhausted, gasping for air. I just slap him across the face and send him flying like a broken kite off the platform. The next 2 fights go exactly the same way. A guy with a staff tries a heavy overhead swing, I absorb the kinetic force, grab the wood, and throw him into the barrier. A girl tries a flying knee, I absorb the impact and push her to the ground. It's not even a workout. Ding, the system chimes again after third disciple hits the floor. Consecutive victories registered. Kinetic energy successfully metabolized. 300 experience points awarded. Host has advanced to Tier 4 Level 2. Agility attribute permanently increased by 5 points. I roll my shoulders, feeling the fresh burst of speed and power locking into my muscle fibers. I'm barely even sweating and my stats are just constantly skyrocketing. The crowd isn't laughing anymore. They aren't throwing insults. They're just sitting there in stunned silence, completely terrified of the unsanctioned commoner who is casually dismantling their entire roster without even taking a fighting stance. The digital registration board flashes brightly, generating the semi-final matchup. The glowing letters spell out my name against someone named Jarek. I pull up the stats immediately. Jarek, Tier 4, Level 3, Weapon Specialist. Before I can even process the information, Elder Kale suddenly stands up from the VP deck and leaps directly down onto the edge of the stone platform. He's totally desperate now. His syndicate is ruined, his testing facility is destroyed, his primary disciple was disqualified, and his reputation is in absolute tatters. He needs to kill me right now, or his career is over. Kale ignores Thorn's warning glare and marches right up to the edge of the ring, pulling a glowing, perfectly spherical rock out of his robes. The rock is pulsing with intense, heavy purple energy, visibly distorting the air around it. It's a Tier 5 gravity geode, an incredibly rare, high-level cultivation resource that easily costs millions. "You've had a very lucky run," Street Rat Kale sneers, his voice dripping with condescension as he holds the geode up for the entire stadium to see. "You rely entirely on brute force and gimmicks. But Jarek is my personal primary disciple, a true weapon master. Since you're so incredibly confident in your little parlor tricks, I'm officially proposing a public wager." Kale points a shaking finger right at my face. "If you somehow manage to defeat Jarek, this Tier 5 gravity geode is yours. But if you lose, you don't just forfeit the match, you forfeit your life. You will legally sign yourself over to my custody for execution." The crowd gasps. They think Kale is setting a brilliant trap, using his immense wealth to bait a greedy commoner into a lethal contract. A guy in the front row shakes his head. He's dead meat now. Jarek hasn't lost a single match in 3 years. That geode is just bait. I look at Kale's smug, desperate face and I almost laugh out loud. He's literally handing me the exact high-tier resource I need to trigger my next system evolution, and he thinks he's punishing me. "I accept your terms, Kale," I say bluntly, not even blinking. "Bring him out so I can collect my prize." Kale smirks and steps off the platform. From the opposite tunnel, Jarek walks out. He's a massive hulking guy, easily 6.5 feet tall, completely covered in heavy iron armor. But the most ridiculous part is the weapon he's carrying. He's dragging a massive 200-pound steel broadsword across the stone floor. It's so ridiculously heavy that it leaves sparks and gouges in the rock with every step he takes. "You're gonna pay for insulting my master," Jarek barks, his voice deep and rough. He grips the massive hilt with both hands and heaves the giant sword up, resting it on his armored shoulder. "I'm gonna cut you entirely in half." He doesn't wait for the referee to signal the start. Jarek roars and charges directly at me, swinging the massive steel broadsword in a brutal horizontal arc aimed right at my ribs. The sheer kinetic force of a 200-pound blade moving at that speed would normally slice a Tier 4 fighter cleanly in two. I don't dodge. I don't block. I just keep my eyes locked dead onto the very tip of his descending blade. The exact second the sword reaches the apex of its swing, I activate Gravity Well. I don't target Jarek. I cast the dense gravitational singularity directly onto the very tip of the heavy steel broadsword. The system instantly multiplies the downward momentum of the weapon by 10. Jarek's eyes widen in absolute shock as the sword suddenly weighs over 2,000 pounds. He can't stop the momentum. The massive blade is violently dragged straight down, entirely missing my torso and burying itself 2 feet deep directly into the solid stone floor of the arena with a deafening crash. The shockwave cracks the platform in every direction. Jarek grunts, his face turning red as he aggressively yanks on the hilt, desperately struggling to dislodge his trapped weapon. "Come on, move," he yells, his veins bulging on his neck. He's totally wide open. I just casually step right onto the flat of the trapped blade, pinning it even further into the rock. I look right into Jarek's panicked eyes, activate my density shift to instantly double my own body mass, and throw a completely relaxed open palm strike directly into his exposed jaw. The hyper-dense impact sounds like a sledgehammer hitting a melon. Jarek's eyes roll into the back of his head immediately. He goes entirely limp, letting go of the sword and dropping to the platform like a sack of wet cement. He's completely incapacitated in a single exchange. Ding. The system interface flashes. Combat victory registered. 200 experience points awarded. I step off the sword and look over at the VIP deck. Kale is frozen in place, his mouth open, his hand still clutching the Tier 5 gravity geode. He can't even comprehend what just happened. His primary weapon master was just one shot by a street kid without even using a stance. I don't wait for him to recover. I walk straight to the edge of the platform, reach out, and violently snatch the geode right out of his shaking hand. "Thanks for the donation, Kale," I say loudly, making sure the corporate sponsors and Thorn hear every word. "Your disciples are just as weak and pathetic as your broken gravity chamber. Maybe you should spend less time making illegal wagers and more time actually teaching them how to fight." Kale's face turns completely purple. He clutches his chest, visibly hyperventilating from the sheer overwhelming public humiliation. I ignore him entirely. I don't put the incredibly valuable $1 million geode in my pocket. I just raise it to my mouth and take a massive bite right out of the dense purple stone, chewing the raw heavy energy and swallowing it down right there on the platform. The crowd sucks in a collective breath of cold air, absolutely terrified that I'm just eating a lethal cultivation resource like an apple. Ding. The high gravity system immediately triggers its metabolic conversion protocol. A massive burning wave of pure, unfiltered power explodes in my stomach, rushing through my veins and reinforcing every single bone in my body. Tier 5 gravity geode metabolized. 10 points permanently added to endurance attribute. Warning. Host has reached the absolute peak of Tier 4. The interface suddenly expands, glowing brightly in my vision with a massive wall of new text. Tier 5 evolution requirement unlocked. To break the mortal limit and achieve Tier 5, host must withstand the gravitational pressure of a natural singularity for 60 seconds and defeat an opponent of a higher base tier. I clench my fists, reading the new stat thresholds, feeling the ridiculous amount of endurance completely flooding my system. I'm practically vibrating with raw kinetic energy. But before I can even close the menu, the massive iron gates on the far side of the arena slowly grind open. The crowd instantly stops whispering. The entire stadium goes dead silent out of sheer respect. Heavy, incredibly measured footsteps echo out of the dark tunnel. A towering figure steps out onto the stone platform, wearing pitch black academy robes lined with silver. His stats pop up instantly in my vision. Tier 5 level 1. Apex Grand Champion. He locks his cold, dead eyes directly onto me, drawing a massive, unadorned black spear from his back. I look at his health bar, look at my evolution requirement, and a cold smirk tugs at the corner of my mouth. I look at his health bar, look at my evolution requirement, and a cold smirk tugs at the corner of my mouth. Gideon doesn't even bother taking a standard fighting stance. He just stands there on the ruined platform, casually resting that massive black spear on his shoulder, projecting a heavy Tier 5 martial aura that makes the air around him literally distort with raw pressure. The crowd in the stands goes completely insane. They're screaming his name, stomping their feet on the metal bleachers, acting like the literal god of war just stepped down from the heavens to bless them with his presence. Gideon is going to slaughter him. A wealthy disciple in the front row yells, his face completely red with excitement. That arrogant street trash is finally going to learn his place. A Tier 4 commoner can't even scratch a Tier 5 Grand Champion. I ignore the noise entirely and pull up the glowing system interface floating right in front of my face. The final evolution requirement to break my mortal limit and hit Tier 5 is glaring at me in bright red text. Absorb 10,000 units of raw kinetic force within 60 seconds. It's a completely ridiculous number. A normal Tier 4 fighter would literally explode trying to take that much blunt force trauma all at once. But looking at Gideon's massive stats and the heavy aura pouring off his body, I realize he isn't my executioner. He's basically a walking battery for my high gravity system. He's my free ticket to the next level. You're completely out of your depth, Commoner Gideon says, his voice totally flat and devoid of any emotion. He points the heavy tip of his black spear directly at my chest. You've got some cheap tricks, I'll give you that. But trickery doesn't work against absolute power. I've spent the last 10 years cultivating my physical body in the highest pressure chambers this academy has to offer. My kinetic output is completely unmatched. Surrender right now, or I'll break every single bone in your body and make you beg for death. I let out a cold laugh. Less talking, more hitting, I say, dropping my arms entirely and sticking my chest out, leaving myself totally wide open. Show me this absolute power you're bragging about. Gideon's eyes flash with intense killing intent. He doesn't say another word. He just bends his knees and detonates the stone platform beneath his feet. He moves so fast he practically teleports. It's a high-velocity sprint that instantly closes the 20-meter gap between us in a fraction of a second, but he doesn't even use his spear. He thinks I'm so far beneath him that he doesn't even need his weapon to secure the kill. Instead, he shifts his entire body weight, drives the butt of his spear into the ground to anchor his momentum, and launches a completely devastating, concentrated knee strike aimed right at my sternum. The sheer kinetic pressure rolling off his knee is absolutely insane. It's easily enough kinetic force to shatter a steel vault door. The crowd gasps, totally expecting my chest to cave in on contact. I don't dodge. I don't even try to block it. The exact millisecond his knee is about to connect with my rib cage, I activate gravity well right inside the center of my own chest. The intense gravitational pull instantly grabs Gideon's forward momentum and violently yanks him in even faster, aggressively multiplying the force of his own strike. His eyes widen in absolute shock as he realizes he can't pull his leg back. Boom. His knee smashes directly into my torso with the force of a speeding freight train. The shockwave is so massive that the solid stone platform completely craters beneath my feet, sending massive chunks of rock flying high into the air. But I don't move a single inch. I just stand there, utilizing my kinetic absorption passive trait to its absolute maximum limit. The system goes into complete overdrive. The crushing kinetic energy tries to rip through my internal organs, but the high gravity system instantly intercepts the impact, metabolizing every single ounce of that raw destructive force and converting it directly into pure system experience. Gideon's smug face drains of all color. He's suspended in the air, his knee pressed against my chest, and he realizes he didn't do a single point of damage. Ding. The system chimes so loudly it makes my teeth rattle. 10,000 units of raw kinetic force successfully absorbed. Evolution condition completely fulfilled. 0 physical damage sustained. Host has advanced to Tier 5 Level 1. Base attributes permanently increased. Active skill singularity unlocked. I feel the massive, burning wave of pure tier 5 power explode through my veins, rewriting my muscle fibers and hardening my bone density to an entirely new level. The new skill description flashes in my vision. Singularity allows the host to create a concentrated focal point of multiplied gravity that entirely crushes anything caught in its radius. I look down at Gideon, who is frantically trying to push himself away from my chest. What the hell are you? He stammers, his perfect composure completely shattering into pure panic. I'm the guy who just out-leveled you, I say bluntly. I don't give him a single second to retreat. I instantly apply my density shift skill right to my right arm, completely doubling its physical mass, and I swing a brutal, hyper-dense backhand directly into the side of his jaw. The impact sounds like a bomb going off inside the arena. My heavy fist completely shatters his tier 5 aura like cheap glass. Gideon spits up a massive mouthful of blood and broken teeth. His eyes roll instantly into the back of his head. He goes totally limp in midair and is sent flying like a broken kite across the ring. He smashes headfirst into the reinforced boundary wall with a heavy thud, cracking the solid stone before sliding down to the floor completely unconscious. The entire arena goes dead silent. You could literally hear a pin drop in the massive stands. The Apex Grand Champion, the invincible tier 5 weapon master, was just knocked out cold with a single backhand. The elite disciples watching are completely paralyzed, their mouths hanging wide open in absolute terror. They can't even process what they just witnessed. Instructor Thorn is the first one to snap out of it. He jumps out of his seat in the VIP deck, his hands shaking violently as he grabs the magical amplification crystal. Match concluded. Thorn's voice echoes frantically across the silent stadium. The winner and the new absolute champion of the preliminary tournament is Arthur. As per the tournament regulations, he is officially awarded the grand prize. Thorn reaches into a heavy lockbox and holds up a glowing, perfectly smooth golden sphere. A level 6 origin core. Just looking at the dense swirling energy radiating off that thing makes my system hunger flare up. I start walking toward the VIP deck to claim my prize, but before I can take 3 steps, a furious, ear-piercing scream rips through the stadium. Fraud. Complete and utter fraud. Elder Kale is having a total meltdown on the balcony. His face is completely purple, the veins bulging out of his neck and forehead like they're about to burst. His reputation is entirely ruined. His syndicate is completely destroyed. All of his illegal investments are totally liquidated, and he just watched his ultimate trump card get swatted like a fly. He refuses to accept it. He reaches under his expensive silk robes and violently smashes a red emergency crystal against the railing. Instantly, a massive humming energy barrier drops from the arena ceiling, completely sealing the stone platform in a cage of dense red light. I'm trapped inside. He's using illegal demonic artifacts. Kale screams, pointing a shaking finger directly at me. No commoner can just absorb a tier 5 strike without moving. He's openly cheating. Red Sash disciples execute this street trash immediately under Academy emergency protocols. 12 elite disciples wearing dark red sashes instantly vault over the barrier walls. They land heavily on the stone platform, completely surrounding me in a tight circle. They all draw massive, heavy steel halberds, their weapons humming with intense, hostile energy. They don't care about the actual tournament rules. They're Kale's personal enforcers, his private hit squad, and they're here to completely silence me before the wealthy corporate sponsors can investigate Kale's syndicate ties. Die, you cheating rat. The lead disciple yells, swinging his halberd in a brutal downward arc right at my neck. The other 11 charge at the exact same time, aiming their heavy blades to chop me into pieces. I just stand perfectly still, letting a cold smirk tug at the corner of my mouth. I don't even raise my fists to block. This is the absolute perfect time to test my brand new tier 5 ability. I simply point my index finger directly at the dead center of the stone ring, right beneath the charging disciples, and I cast Singularity. The system instantly rips a hole in the localized gravity field. A tiny pitch-black sphere of hyperdense gravity manifests just inches above the floor. The effect is instantaneous and completely devastating. It doesn't just make things heavier, it completely rewrites the local laws of physics. The system takes the normal gravitational constant and just aggressively multiplies it by 50. The 12 charging disciples don't even have time to scream. The crushing downward force instantly drags them right out of the air. They slam face first into the solid stone platform with a loud chorus of sickening crunches. Their heavy steel halberds snap in half like dry twigs under the sheer weight of the Singularity. Arg. My ribs. The lead disciple gasps, spitting up blood. He's completely pinned to the ground, his face smashed against the rock, totally unable to lift a single finger. I casually step over their crushed, groaning bodies and look directly up at the VIP spectator box. Elder Kale is gripping the metal railing, his eyes wide with sheer, unfiltered terror. He realizes his elite hit squad just got flattened in 2 seconds, without me even touching them. "You're a dead man, Kale," I state bluntly. I don't dispel the singularity. I just forcefully expand its radius, pushing the massive gravitational field right up into the spectator box, specifically targeting Kale's exact coordinates. The heavy, invisible weight violently crashes down onto his shoulders. Kale gasps for air as his Tier 4 aura completely collapses under my Tier 5 pressure. The downward pull is so intense that he is literally forced down to his knees. His kneecaps smash directly into the concrete balcony with a loud, violent crack. Kale screams in absolute agony, grabbing his ruined legs as he's physically subjugated in front of the entire academy. The wealthy patrons and other elders scramble backward in a total panic, totally terrified of the crushing gravity field just inches away from them. "Stop!" Kale begs, spitting up blood onto the floor. "I'm an academy elder. You can't do this to me." I just let out a cold laugh. "You're nothing but a sore loser who couldn't afford to pay his debts." But before I can increase the pressure and completely crush his spine against the floor, a massive, overwhelming pressure descends from the very top of the academy spire. A figure shrouded in blinding white light floats down from the sky, landing gently on the VIP balcony right next to the crying elder. It's Headmaster Orion. His stats are totally hidden, completely masked by a wall of system question marks. He doesn't even look at me. He just waves his hand, and the red containment barrier sealing the arena instantly shatters into a million pieces of harmless light. Orion looks down at KL, who is still sobbing and clutching his shattered knees on the concrete. Elder Kale, Orion says, his voice booming with absolute, unquestionable authority. "You have repeatedly violated the sacred tournament laws. You provided contraband to active combatants. You initiated an unsanctioned lethal wager. You completely disgraced the name of this institution in front of our most valuable corporate sponsors. And now you attempt to murder a legitimate champion to cover your own financial incompetence. You are hereby stripped of your elder status and expelled from this academy permanently. Your assets are seized." Kale's face drains of all color. He completely passes out from the shock and the pain, collapsing into a heap. Orion finally turns his gaze down to me, standing in the ruined ring surrounded by 12 unconscious elites. "Your physical capabilities are entirely unprecedented," Arthur, the headmaster, says, tossing a heavy object down to me. I catch it easily in one hand. It's a heavy black iron key radiating a dense, freezing energy. That is the access key to the gravity abyss, a restricted subterranean dungeon beneath the academy where we harvest high-level cores. Since you clearly require intense gravitational environments to cultivate your unique path, I am granting you full, unrestricted access. I look at the black iron key in my hand and feel the system interface practically humming with pure anticipation. The monsters down there are going to be walking gold mines of experience points. I walk right over to Instructor Thorn, snatch the level 6 origin core right out of his trembling hands, and take a massive bite out of the golden sphere, instantly chewing the dense, glowing energy to completely replenish my stamina. I turn my back on the terrified crowd, gripping the black iron key tightly, and head straight toward the academy's lower levels. The heavy steel door guarding the subterranean sector clicks loudly the millisecond I shove the black iron key right into the rusted lock. I push the massive barrier open, and the ambient gravity instantly spikes the second I step onto the dark stone staircase. My system interface lights up like a rigged slot machine in my vision. The air pressure down here is so intensely heavy that normal commoners would literally be crushed into paste just standing in the hallway. They would suffocate before they even made it down the first flight of stairs. But for me, it just feels like stepping into an all-you-can-eat buffet. Marcus used to lock me in a damp basement thinking starvation and isolation would completely break my spirit. Now, the absolute highest authorities of this city are literally handing me the keys to their most restricted vaults because they are too terrified to stop me. I step off the final stair into the gravity abyss and the darkness immediately shifts. 6 massive figures step out of the shadows, blocking the primary tunnel. My truth skill scans them instantly, and the floating red text confirms exactly what I am looking at. Tier 5 obsidian golems. They are pure condensed subterranean rock completely molded by the dungeon's high pressure into walking siege engine. They do not have faces, just glowing red energy cores buried deep in the center of the rocky chests. Normal Tier 5 disciples would need a highly coordinated raid team of at least 20 people just to chip away at one of these things. They would use specialized acid vials and heavy blunt weapons, screaming battle formations, and relying on expensive academy healers just to survive a single graze from their massive fist. In my past life, if I saw something like this, I would have passed out from sheer terror. Now, I just crack my knuckles and let a cold smirk tug at the corner of my mouth. The 6 golems detect my presence and instantly charge in perfect formation. Their massive stone feet violently shake the ground with every single step, kicking up huge clouds of dust. The sheer kinetic force they generate is completely insane. I do not even bother putting up my guard or shifting into a defensive stance. I just point my index finger right at the dead center of their little squad and cast Singularity. A tiny pitch black sphere of hyperdense gravity rips into existence right in the middle of their formation. The golems do not even have time to react or alter their trajectory. The crushing focal point instantly grabs all 6 of them and violently drags them together into a single massive pileup. The deafening sound of grinding stone echoes through the cavern as their thick outer plating completely shatters under the aggressively multiplied weight. They are just crushed into useless gravel in 2 seconds flat. Ding! The system chimes happily in my ear. Residual kinetic energy successfully metabolized. 400 experience points awarded. Host has advanced to Tier 5 Level 2. Agility attribute permanently increased by 10 points. I feel the warm, rushing wave of pure power flood my veins, completely rewriting my muscle fibers on a cellular level. My muscles tighten and my reflexes sharpen instantly. Elder Kale really thought he was punishing me by trying to trap me in a pressurized chamber earlier today, but he just ended up handing me the VIP pass to the best farming spot in the entire city. I pushed deeper into the massive cavern, completely ignoring the crushed remains of the golems. The walls down here are lined with thick, pulsing blue veins of raw gravity crystals. I turn a sharp corner and the deafening sound of heavy industrial drilling suddenly hits my ears. I step onto a rusted metal overlook and look down at a massive, completely illegal excavation site. There are at least 30 heavily armed mercenaries down there on the cavern floor, using heavy laser drills to rip massive chunks of glowing crystals right out of the bedrock. They are all wearing dark gray combat armor with the Syndicate's logo painted right on their shoulders. These are Victor's leftover guys, Kale's secret underground payroll. The Academy elites talk so much about honor and discipline up on the surface, acting like they are the moral pillars of the city, but down here they are just running illegal strip mines to line their own pockets and fund their underground betting rings. The mercenary captain, standing near the main drill, spots me almost immediately. He is wearing a heavy glowing exosuit that completely covers his torso and hums with a dense mechanical energy. My system scans him instantly. Tier 5 Level 3 operative. He looks up at the metal walkway, his eyes locking directly onto me, and he just bursts out laughing. "Well, look what we have here," the captain yells, pointing a heavy armored finger right at my face. Elder Kale sent us an emergency message saying some fat street commoner was causing trouble up top and ruining our investments, but I honestly didn't think you'd be stupid enough to walk right into my actual mining operation. You just saved me a trip to the surface, kid. The 30 mercenaries instantly drop their heavy mining equipment and grab their kinetic rifles, aiming the black barrels directly at my chest. The peanut gallery down there is already loudly mocking me. "Look at this idiot," one of the miners shouts, racking the bolt of his rifle with a loud clack. "He doesn't even have a weapon. Did Kale send a janitor down here?" Another one yells, laughing hysterically. "Just turn him into paste and let's get back to work." I do not say a single word. I do not even try to negotiate or explain myself. I just step right off the metal walkway and drop 30 feet straight down into the center of the excavation site. The exact second my boots hit the rocky floor, I completely activate my gravity domain. The invisible 15-meter radius instantly expands outward, completely covering the entire squad of laughing mercenaries. But instead of making things heavier like they expect, I instantly shift the directional pull of the gravity entirely upwards. The effect is totally devastating. The 30 mercenaries do not even have time to scream. The sudden reversal of gravity violently rips the heavy kinetic rifles right out of their hands. They all fly up into the air, completely losing their footing and smash violently against the cavern ceiling 30 feet above us with a loud chorus of sickening crunches. What the hell is happening? One of them screams, his face completely pale as he is pinned upside down against the rock. "My legs! I can't move." Another one yells in pure panic. They are just stuck up there like bugs on a windshield, completely helpless and completely humiliated. The captain is the only one left standing on the floor. His heavy exosuit hums loudly, actively generating a bright blue counterfield that totally nullifies my gravity domain's pull. He looks up at his pinned squad and his face twists into pure, unfiltered rage. "You think some cheap environmental trick is going to work on me?" He sneers, drawing a massive, crackling plasma blade from his hip. This suit cost more than your entire bloodline. It completely cancels out gravity manipulation. I'm a tier 5 level 3 veteran, you arrogant little punk. You think ruining Victor's little arena makes you a big shot? Victor was just a front. The people backing this operation rule the entire sector, and I'm going to cut you into pieces and feed you to the golems to prove it. He bends his knees and violently launches himself directly at me. His exosuit gives him a massive boost in physical speed, allowing him to close the distance in a fraction of a second. He swings the glowing plasma blade in a brutal horizontal arc aimed right at my neck. He completely expects my head to just roll off my shoulders. He severely underestimates my physical specs. I do not dodge. I do not even bother stepping back to create distance. I just raise my bare left hand and catch the descending plasma blade right by the flat of the glowing weapon. The captain's eyes widen in absolute shock. His face totally drains of all color. He just stares at my bare fingers, gripping a weapon that burns at 3,000 degrees. My kinetic absorption passive trait completely kicks into overdrive. The system instantly drains every single ounce of the strike's kinetic force, converting the raw thermal and physical energy into a massive charge that pools directly into my right arm. The plasma blade completely short circuits, sparking violently before going completely dark in my grip. How are you doing that? The captain stammers, frantically trying to pull the dead weapon out of my hand. My suit's output is completely maxed. I just let out a cold laugh. Your suit is garbage, I say bluntly. I do not give him a single second to recover his balance. I instantly apply my density shift skill directly to my right arm, completely doubling its physical mass, and I swing a brutal, hyperdense palm strike directly into the center of his chest armor. The impact sounds like a massive cannon going off inside the cavern. The sheer physical force completely caves in his heavy exosuit, shattering the gravity-nullifying core in a massive shower of blue sparks. The captain spits up a massive mouthful of blood and is sent flying backward like a broken kite. He smashes headfirst into the heavy metal drilling rig with a loud thud, bending the solid steel beams before completely collapsing to the floor. He is knocked out cold instantly. Ding. The system chimes loudly in my head. Victory against a higher level opponent registered. 600 experience points awarded. Passive trait event horizon unlocked. The new data instantly floods my vision in bright text. Event horizon automatically slows physical projectiles entering the host's immediate vicinity. Basically, nobody can ever shoot me in the back again. I walk right over to the unconscious captain, completely ignoring the mercenaries still screaming on the ceiling, and casually rip the heavy spatial ring right off his armored finger. I tap the ring to my system interface to scan the inventory. It is fully loaded with 2 entire tons of refined gravity crystals. This guy was sitting on an absolute goldmine of pure energy, and he did not even know how to use it properly. Normal cultivators would need to sit in a meditation circle for 6 months to safely absorb just one of these stones. I grab a massive handful of the dense, glowing purple rocks and just shove them directly into my mouth. I bite down hard, completely crushing them like cheap hard candy. The system's metabolic conversion protocol instantly rips the crystals apart the second they hit my stomach. I feel a massive burning wave of pure strength violently rewrite my muscle fibers. Ding. Core strength attribute permanently increased by 15 points. I clench my fists and feel the raw, crushing tier 5 power practically radiating off my skin. I am completely in my element now. Nobody in this academy can even come close to my physical specs. But just as I am getting ready to empty the rest of the ring, a massive red warning prompt violently flashes across my system interface. Alert. Massive tier 6 energy signature approaching the dungeon entrance. Extreme hostile intent detected. Before I can even process the system warning, the heavy metal doors at the top of the cavern entrance are violently blown completely off their hinges. The massive steel slabs smash into the stone walls and a heavily battered figure comes tumbling down the stone steps. It is Instructor Thorn. His expensive academy robes are completely shredded and he is bleeding heavily from a massive gash across his forehead. He practically crawls to the edge of the metal walkway, looking down at me in the excavation site with eyes full of absolute terror. Arthur. Thorn coughs, spitting up a mouthful of blood onto the metal grate. You have to run. Right now. I look up at him, my expression completely flat. Run from what? I just cleared out the trash down here. Thorn violently shakes his head, his hands trembling as he grips the metal railing. It's not the Syndicate. It's the City Warlord, the Tier 6 absolute authority who originally funded Victor's underground arena. He just breached the main academy gates. He completely shattered the outer defense barrier in a single strike. The elite mercenaries pinned to the ceiling above me start panicking even harder. The Warlord is here? One of them cries out, "We're all dead. He's going to slaughter everyone." Thorn ignores them and stares directly at me, his chest heaving. "He knows you destroyed his entire investment, Arthur. He publicly executed the headmaster's personal guards, and he is tearing through the upper courtyards looking specifically for you. He just ripped Elder Vance in half with his bare hands. A Tier 6 warlord's kinetic output is completely beyond mortal limits. You have to use the subterranean emergency exit to escape the city." I just listened to his panicked rambling. Run? Escape? The very idea is completely laughable to me. My high gravity system specifically requires high-level opponents to fuel my progression. A Tier 6 warlord isn't a death sentence. He is a massive walking stockpile of experience points just begging to be harvested. If he thinks he can just barge into my academy and demand my life, he is going to learn a very painful lesson about gravity. I casually step completely over the defeated captain's broken body. I do not look at the stairs, and I definitely do not look at the emergency exit. I just clench my fists and mentally activate my brand new Event Horizon passive trait. A faint, crushing distortion field hums into existence directly around my body. I crack my neck, look straight up toward the ruined entrance, and prepare to ascend right back to the surface. I step right past the battered instructor and punch the heavy metal button for the main cargo elevator, completely ignoring the fact that he's bleeding all over the grated floor. Thorn scrambles into the elevator car right behind me, coughing up blood and frantically rambling about how we're walking straight into a complete slaughterhouse and how a Tier 6 warlord is a walking natural disaster that we can't possibly fight. I don't even bother looking at him, just keeping my eyes completely locked on the digital floor indicators as the heavy machinery shoots us upwards toward the surface. In my past life, just hearing the title of warlord would have sent me hiding in a basement, terrified of getting crushed by the wealthy elites who ran this city like it was their own personal playground. My stepfather Marcus used to worship guys like this, completely willing to sell me out just for a fraction of their approval. But now, with the high gravity system pumping pure, unfiltered power through my veins, I don't feel an ounce of fear. The heavy steel doors slide open with a loud mechanical screech, and the scene in the main academy courtyard is a total disaster. The reinforced stone walls are completely shattered into rubble. Headmaster Orion, the absolute strongest martial artist in the academy who literally just handed me the dungeon key a few hours ago, is pinned face down against the cracked pavement, completely incapacitated and coughing up massive mouthfuls of blood. Standing right over his broken body is a massive guy wearing heavily fortified, gold-trimmed combat armor that practically screams ridiculous wealth, the city warlord, the absolute ruler of this sector and the primary backer who is funding Victor's illegal underground syndicate. He's got his heavy combat boot pressed right against Orion's neck, looking incredibly bored as dozens of elite academy disciples cower in the corners of the courtyard, completely paralyzed by fear. The warlord looks up, spots me stepping out of the elevator, and his face instantly twists into a disgusting sneer. "So you're the fat piece of street trash that ruined my underground syndicate," he booms, his arrogant voice echoing across the entire courtyard. "I expected a rival martial master, not some oversized child. You cost me $300 million in investments today, kid, and I'm gonna peel the flesh off your bones for it." The terrified disciples in the courtyard start whispering frantically the second they see me. It's Arthur. One of them gasps, his face completely pale. He's dead meat. The warlord is Tier 6. Why didn't he just run away using the underground tunnels? Another one cries out, fully expecting to watch me get ripped apart. I don't say a single word. I just crack my knuckles and keep walking straight toward him, my face completely flat. Seeing me completely ignore his threats pisses the warlord off instantly. "Arrogant little rat," he snarls, completely insulted that I'm not begging for my life on my knees. He casually raises his right hand, completely dismissing me as an actual threat. His heavy gauntlet glows with a blinding bright light, and he instantly fires a massive barrage of concentrated kinetic bolts directly at my chest. These things aren't just bullets, they're essentially localized cannonballs made of pure kinetic force. A single one could easily blow a massive hole straight through a reinforced military bunker. The cowering disciples scream and cover their eyes, completely expecting me to be turned into a puddle of blood on the pavement, but they have absolutely no idea what kind of system mechanics I just unlocked down in that cavern. I don't even break my stride or raise my hands to block. The kinetic bolts cross the courtyard in a fraction of a second, but the exact moment they enter the immediate vicinity around my body, they slam straight into my brand new Event Horizon passive trait. The invisible distortion field instantly activates, completely stripping every single single ounce of kinetic momentum right out of the projectiles. The blinding energy bolts just fizzle out instantly, turning into harmless chunks of dull metal that drop right out of the air and clatter pathetically onto the stone floor right at my feet. I casually kick one of the pieces out of my way and let a cold smirk tug at the corner of my mouth. The warlord's eyes widen in absolute shock, and the smug, entitled grin completely vanishes from his face. What kind of cheap defensive artifact are you hiding? He yells, completely refusing to believe a Tier 5 student just passively nullified his attack without even trying. You think you can rely on stolen gear to survive a Tier 6 absolute authority? He kicks Headmaster Orion out of the way like a broken toy and lunges forward with insane speed, cracking the pavement beneath his heavy boots as he launches himself directly at me. The sheer physical speed of a Tier 6 cultivator is insane, closing the massive distance between us in a single blink. He pulls back his right arm, channeling a massive amount of dense, crushing energy right into his fist. I'll crush your skull and rip that artifact right off your corpse. He roars, executing a brutal Tier 6 seismic punch aimed straight at my torso. The air pressure around his fist is so heavy it's practically screaming, tearing up the loose stones on the ground just from the sheer force of his momentum. He completely expects me to panic, to try and block, or to dive out of the way. I don't do either. The exact millisecond his glowing fist is about to connect with my chest, I activate Gravity Well. I don't place the gravitational focal point on him, I place it immediately to his left, instantly pulling his entire center of mass completely off balance. His eyes widen as his massive strike is forcefully dragged off target by the sudden gravitational shift. Instead of hitting my chest, his fist is pulled right into my waiting hands. I instantly activate my kinetic absorption trait and catch his Tier 6 seismic strike completely barehanded. The sheer kinetic force of the impact explodes outward in a massive shockwave, completely shattering the massive stone pillars all around the courtyard and blowing the spectating disciples right off their feet. The noise is absolutely deafening, like a bomb going off right in front of us. But I don't budge a single inch. My boots stay firmly planted on the cracked stone. The high gravity system instantly metabolizes the massive energy output, completely draining the destructive kinetic force from his fist and converting it into pure fuel for my body. The warlord gasps, sucking in a sharp breath of cold air as he realizes I just tanked his ultimate technique without taking a single scratch. Ding. The system chimes loudly right in my ear. Extreme kinetic force absorbed, 1,000 experience points awarded. Host has advanced to Tier 5 Level 3. Active skill Gravity Crush unlocked. The new data instantly floods my vision in bright blue text. Gravity Crush allows the host to multiply the gravitational pull on a single target by 50 times. I feel a massive wave of pure, unfiltered power completely rewrite my muscle fibers on a cellular level, tightening my core and sharpening my senses. I look right into the warlord's terrified eyes. He frantically tries to yank his fist out of my grip, pulling with all his Tier 6 strength, but it's like his hand is completely bolted to a titanium vault. My turn, I say bluntly, not giving him a single second to process what's happening. I instantly cast Gravity Crush directly onto his heavy combat armor. The immediate 50-fold weight increase is completely devastating. The warlord doesn't even have time to scream before the crushing gravitational pressure forces him straight to his knees. The deafening sound of snapping bone echoes across the dead silent courtyard as his heavily fortified leg bones completely fracture under the insane weight of his own body. He spits up a massive mouthful of blood onto my shoes, his entire body trembling uncontrollably as he is physically pinned to the ground, totally unable to even lift his head. "You're a monster," he chokes out, his face draining of all color as his internal organs start rupturing under the extreme pressure. The arrogant elite who thought he owned the entire city is now just a broken mess begging for air. I don't give him any mercy. I instantly apply my density shift skill directly to my right arm, completely doubling its physical mass, and I deliver a brutal downward strike straight to the top of his head. The hyperdense impact completely crushes his gold-trimmed combat helmet like a cheap soda can. The warlord's eyes roll back into his head and he completely loses consciousness, smashing face first into the pavement with a heavy thud. The entire courtyard goes absolutely dead silent. The terrified academy disciples are just staring at me with their jaws completely unhinged, totally unable to comprehend that a student just one-shot the strongest man in the sector. I don't care about their opinions at all. I reach right down into the warlord's shattered chest armor, grab the glowing Tier 6 sovereign core buried inside his suit and rip it out with a wet crunch. It's practically humming with raw energy. I just toss it straight into my mouth and bite down hard in front of everyone. The system's metabolic conversion protocol instantly rips the core apart and a burning wave of heat floods my chest. Ding. Core strength attribute permanently increased by 20 points. I crack my neck, feeling the raw, heavy power settling right into my bones. That's when I look up and see the warlord's private vanguard. 100 elite soldiers heavily armed with kinetic rifles and plasma blades, standing in perfect formation near the shattered academy gates. They just watched a teenager completely humiliate and destroy their invincible Tier 6 leader in less than a minute. The Vanguard captain's face drains of all color, his hands shaking so hard he can barely hold his weapon. He immediately drops his kinetic rifle onto the pavement. The rest of the soldiers instantly follow suit, the loud clatter of falling metal echoing through the courtyard as all 100 elite troops drop right to their knees in complete submission. They press their foreheads against the stone, absolutely terrified I'm going to cast that gravity trick on them next. I walk right over to the unconscious warlord and casually strip the glowing command ring right off his broken finger. The system instantly registers the ownership transfer, linking the city's central armory and all of the warlord's digital offshore funds directly into my personal account. I don't even bother counting the zeros on the interface. I am officially the richest person in this entire sector, possessing enough military gear to outfit a small country. Instructor Thorn finally limps out of the elevator, clutching a heavily encrypted communication device in his bloody hands. He looks at the warlord's broken body, then looks at the kneeling army, completely speechless. He shoves the device right into my hands, his entire body shaking. "Arthur, you don't understand what you just did," he stammers, his eyes full of absolute terror. "This just came through the emergency channels. It's not just the warlord anymore, it's from the capital." I look down at the device as a red holographic projection flickers into existence. An older, heavily scarred man wearing the pristine uniform of a Tier 7 Grand Overseer glares out from the projection, looking down his nose like we are nothing but insects. "City Warlord defeated," the automated system voice announces before the Overseer speaks. "To the unsanctioned anomaly in Sector 4. You have destroyed my investments and murdered my subordinates. You are a disease on my perfect system. I am issuing a citywide extermination order against you. A fleet of Tier 7 aerial dreadnoughts is already en route. You will be completely eradicated at dawn." The red projection flickers and dies, leaving the courtyard in total silence for exactly 1 second before the disciples start sobbing in absolute despair. A Tier 7 dreadnought fleet is basically a walking apocalypse. They can completely level the entire city from the clouds without ever touching the ground. Thorn falls straight to his knees, completely giving up all hope. "It's over," he whispers, staring blankly at the cracked pavement. "We're all dead. You doomed us all, Arthur." I just let out a cold laugh, the sound cutting through the crying crowd like a knife. I pull up my high-gravity system interface and check the exact requirements for my Tier 6 evolution. The bright blue text flashes directly in my vision, clear as day. Tier 6 evolution requirement: destroy an active aerial fortress. I couldn't have asked for a better delivery service if I tried. The capital isn't sending an execution squad, they are just sending me the exact amount of experience points I need to break the next limit. I look right at the terrified, kneeling Vanguard soldiers and point my finger directly at the shattered academy gates. "Get on your feet," I order them, my voice completely flat and echoing with absolute authority. "We're marching to the central armory right now to get my gear ready for the invasion." I don't wait for them to process the command. I just turn my back and walk straight toward the underground armory entrance, completely expecting them to follow. The heavy clatter of boots behind me tells me everything I need to know. The 100 elite Vanguard soldiers scramble to their feet and march right behind me like perfectly trained attack dogs, their faces completely pale with terror. They just watched me rip the warlord's core out of his chest, so nobody is stupid enough to step out of line. I walk right up to the massive steel vault doors of the central armory, holding up the warlord's glowing command ring. The heavy security scanners read the biometric data and flash a bright green light. The thick metal doors slide open with a loud mechanical screech, revealing rows upon rows of high-end military gear that cost more than this entire sector's GDP. Back in my past life, my stepfather Marcus would have gladly sold me to a black market organ harvester just to afford a single helmet from this room. Now I'm just casually strolling past racks of plasma rifles and energy shields like I'm browsing a convenience store. I ignore the standard weapons and walk straight to the back, pulling a pristine set of Tier 6 kinetic plating off the heavy display rack. The armor is dark gray, lined with dense kinetic shock absorbers that feel incredibly heavy in my hands. I strap the heavy plating over my chest and shoulders, feeling the cold metal lock into place. It's a perfect fit. I don't even need a mirror to know I look like an absolute tank. I crack my neck, the loud pop echoing in the silent armory. Dawn is just starting to break outside, casting long gray shadows across the shattered courtyard. But the morning light doesn't last long. A massive, deafening hum vibrates through the concrete walls, shaking the dust right off the ceiling. The air pressure drops so fast it makes my ears pop. I step back out of the armory and walk into the center of the ruined courtyard, looking straight up into the sky. The entire horizon is completely blocked out. A massive fleet of capital aerial dreadnoughts is floating right above the Apex Academy, completely blotting out the rising sun. These aren't just transport ships. They are flying metal fortresses packed with enough firepower to turn a mountain range into a glass parking lot. The flagship hovering right in the center is easily the size of a city block, heavily armored and humming with terrifying energy. The Tier 7 Grand Overseer's voice booms out from the flagship's massive external speakers, echoing across the entire sector with absolute arrogance. Listen to me very closely, you pathetic little anomaly, the Overseer snarls, his voice dripping with completely unearned superiority. You actually thought killing my warlord gave you control of this sector? You are nothing but a rat in a maze. I am a Tier 7 Grand Overseer from the capital. I own the maze. I am going to vaporize you, your academy, and every single person who witnessed your little stunt. This sector will be wiped completely clean. The terrified academy disciples who haven't fled yet completely lose their minds. They fall to their knees, sobbing uncontrollably and covering their head. We're dead. He's charging the primary orbital cannon. One of the senior students screams, his voice cracking with pure panic. A Tier 7 cannon strike will melt the bedrock straight down to the mantle. There's nowhere to hide. Instructor Thorn tries to stand up, but his legs completely give out and he collapses onto the cracked pavement, his face draining of all color. Arthur, you have to run. Thorn chokes out, coughing up another mouthful of blood. You can't punch a flying fortress. It's over. I don't even look at him. I just let a cold smirk tug at the corner of my mouth. They are all completely trapped in their old way of thinking, totally unable to understand the system mechanics I'm currently running. I narrow my eyes and activate my enhanced perception, scanning the massive underside of the Dreadnought flagship. The Overseer is so incredibly confident in his aerial superiority that he didn't even bother activating the ship's lower kinetic shielding. Right there, perfectly exposed on the massive steel hull, are the ship's primary anti-gravity propulsion rings. They are glowing with a bright blue light, humming loudly as they keep millions of tons of steel floating effortlessly in the air. I don't say a single word of trash talk back to the Overseer. I just raise my right hand, point my index finger straight up at the center propulsion ring, and instantly cast Gravity Crush. The active skill targets the core mass of the glowing rings and multiplies it by 50 times in a fraction of a millisecond. The massive dreadnought violently shudders in the sky. The deafening sound of grinding metal screeches through the air as the massive propulsion rings buckle under their own suddenly impossible weight. But I don't stop there. I immediately follow it up by casting Gravity Well, placing the directional focal point directly above the failing engines to completely invert their propulsion trajectory. The massive engines try to push down, but my Gravity Well yanks the kinetic force straight back up into the ship's own hull. The result is absolutely catastrophic. The anti-gravity rings completely implode, exploding in a massive shower of blue sparks and shredded steel. The flagship groans like a dying beast, immediately losing all its buoyancy. Millions of tons of solid metal drop right out of the sky. The Overseer's arrogant broadcast cuts off in a panicked screech as his invincible fortress plummets directly toward the outer wasteland just past the academy walls. It hits the ground with an impact so heavy it actually throws me a few inches off my feet. A massive shockwave of dirt and shattered rock blasts over the academy walls, blowing the screaming disciples right across the courtyard. I plant my boots into the pavement and activate my kinetic absorption passive trait. The absolute insane amount of kinetic force generated by a city-sized dreadnought slamming into the earth washes right over me. My system grabs every single ounce of that destructive energy and metabolizes it right into my bloodstream. Ding! The system chimes so loudly in my head it actually makes my teeth rattle. Extreme kinetic force absorbed. Tier 6 evolution requirement fulfilled. 5,000 experience points awarded. Host has advanced to Tier 6 Level 1. Core strength, agility, and endurance permanently increased by 50 points. I let out a heavy breath as a blinding wave of pure, unfiltered heat rewrites my cellular structure. My muscles tighten, expanding against the Tier 6 kinetic plating I just put on. My vision sharpens so intensely I can see the individual dust particles floating in the air a mile away. Ding. Pinnacle passive trait Absolute Domain unlocked. The new blue text flashes directly across my retinas. Absolute Domain automatically subjects any hostile entity within a 1-mile radius to a permanent 100-fold gravity increase. The host no longer needs to manually cast gravitational suppression. I slowly lower my hand, cracking my knuckles as I feel the absolute terrifying weight of my new power settling right into my bones. Over in the wasteland, the ruined flagship is nothing but a massive pile of burning scrap metal. The heavy steel debris gets blasted apart from the inside. The Grand Overseer crawls out of the flaming wreckage, looking completely deranged. His pristine uniform is torn to shreds and his face is covered in soot and blood. He glares across the wasteland directly at me, his eyes wide with absolute furious disbelief. "You blew up my flagship," he screams, his voice cracking like a madman. "You absolute piece of garbage. I am a Tier 7 warlord. I am going to tear your spine out with my bare hands." He slaps a button on his chest and his heavy cybernetic flight suit engages. 6 massive thrusters ignite on his back, launching him straight up into the morning sky. He arcs through the air like a human missile, channeling a massive amount of dense Tier 7 energy directly into his fists for a high-altitude dive strike aimed right at my head. The remaining disciples in the courtyard scream in total horror, completely expecting the Overseer to crash down on me like a meteor and wipe out the entire block. I just stand completely motionless. I don't raise my hands. I don't brace for impact. I just slide my hands right into my pockets and watch him fall. Die. The Overseer roars, closing the distance at insane speed. He crosses the 1-mile boundary marker. My absolute domain passive trait triggers without me having to lift a single finger. The 100-fold gravitational increase slams into the Overseer mid-air like an invisible concrete wall. His high-tech cybernetic flight suit crumples under the impossible weight, the metal thrusters sparking and dying immediately. The Overseer's arrogant scream turns into a wet gasp of absolute terror as his aerial superiority is completely stripped away in a microsecond. The 100-fold gravity drags him straight out of the sky like a shot bird. He doesn't even have time to brace himself before he slams face first right into the cracked pavement of the courtyard, missing me by a solid 10 feet. The sound of his impact is disgusting. Both of his femurs snap, the bone tearing right through his expensive suit. His collarbone fractures with a loud crunch, and he spits up a massive pool of dark blood onto the stones. The crater he made is literally shaped exactly like his broken body. The entire courtyard goes completely dead silent again. The disciples are just staring at the bleeding Tier 7 Overseer, their jaws totally unhinged, completely unable to process that the strongest man they have ever seen just got completely crushed by simply entering my airspace. I slowly walk over to him, my heavy boots crunching on the loose stones. The Overseer is pinned flat on his back, his entire body shaking uncontrollably under the crushing weight of my domain. He can't even lift his hands to defend himself. His eyes are wide with absolute raw terror as he looks up at me. The arrogant superiority is completely gone, replaced by the pathetic realization that he is totally powerless. Wait, he chokes out, bubbling blood leaking from his mouth. Parley. We can parley. I can give you the authorization codes for the entire capital. I can make you a Grand Overseer. You can have everything. I look down at him feeling absolutely nothing but cold disgust. These wealthy elites always think they can buy their way out of the consequences they create. They kick and beat people like my stepfather Marcus did, completely confident they'll never be touched. I don't need you to give me the capital, I tell him bluntly, my voice devoid of any emotion. I'm just going to take it. I activate my density shift skill, targeting my right leg and completely multiplying its physical mass. I raise my boot and deliver a brutal, full-force heel strike straight down into his heavily armored chest plate. The hyperdense impact shatters his Tier 7 defensive plating like cheap glass. My boot crushes right through his ribcage, destroying his heart in a single hit. The Overseer's eyes roll back, his body twitching once before he goes completely limp against the pavement. He is totally dead. Ding. The system chimes one final time. Supreme hostile entity eliminated. 10,000 experience points awarded. Host progression tree completely maxed out. Maximum authority achieved. I dismiss the blue text with a single thought, letting the system interface fade away completely. High above the academy, the rest of the Dreadnought fleet is still hovering in the sky. Fleet captains just watch their invincible Grand Overseer get swatted out of the air and stomped to death by a teenager. Panic completely erupts across the capital's secure comm channels. Before they can even think about running or retaliating, my stolen command ring lights up like a beacon. A rapid series of digital pings floods the interface. The fleet captains are frantically transmitting their ultimate authorization codes directly to my ring, transferring ownership of the entire armada to me. The massive dreadnoughts power down their heavy weapons, descending slowly and landing quietly in the outer wasteland in a display of absolute unconditional surrender. I don't even bother looking up at them. I already know they belong to me now. Instructor Thorn and Headmaster Orion manage to drag themselves over to the crater. They look at the Overseer's crushed corpse, then look at the massive fleet sitting silently in the dirt. Both of the elite academy instructors slowly lower themselves to their knees, pressing their heads against the cracked pavement. They aren't bowing out of fear anymore. They are bowing in absolute submission, acknowledging me as the undisputed supreme sovereign of the entire capital territory. I walk past them, stepping right over the broken bodies of my enemies, and walk out into the wasteland. I climb up onto the massive, ruined hull of the Overseer's dreadnought and take a seat on the heavy steel plating. The morning sun is finally rising, casting a bright golden light over the endless rows of military ships and kneeling soldiers that now completely belong to me. I survived Marcus. I survived the Warlord. I completely crushed the Overseer. I pull in a deep breath of the cold morning air, looking out over my newly conquered city. I am in absolute control.